Oh my God, we have so much to talk about. I have literally no idea how we're supposed to do this. I'm Andreas. Welcome to Synctank. Eddie, good to see you. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good.
David, Billy
What's up?
John. How you? Wow, are you like? This is great. This is levels of meta right now. I'm a big fan of the projection behind. This is a very. This is how they film. Wait, you can't do product placement for
Yeah, you
Florida
can't.
Naturals on my show.
Yeah. You
You
have to be careful.
monster. You be careful with that. You be careful with that. I don't know. I might have to pull you out if you do anything naughty, if you have too much DMCA copyright material there. Because then they'll be like, hey, we have to stop sharing the video. And he's like, what are you doing? I can't even hear you.
This episode is brought to you by corporate logos
right,
and
well,
full symbols.
While you try to figure...
I think if you play Metropolis behind you, you should be safe. Oh, we got no
Yeah.
volume for you.
Yeah, we have no volume either. Ayahuasca, figure it out. So in the meantime, I mean, all right, I really do. We're going to start with Synchronous, but more generally, we're going to take a Disneyland train really quickly, just so people know what we're going to talk about tonight. I mean, kind of generally, the golden bows has been on my mind, but that's a metaphor for what's been going on. Sperm counts are falling. We knew that. Biden stoves, trigger floods, torrential rains. That's the one, right? So there's the floodlines, the entire Illuminati floodline situation. There he is. All right, great. Is your audio working? There we go. Cool. Yeah, you were silenced the entire time. They didn't know what you were doing. They didn't know what you were going to say. They didn't like it. Shout out to the families of Californians. As a Californian myself right now going through this is insane. 14 people killed in a violent flooding across California. There's a kid missing in Santa Barbara. 70 horses. I mean, like lost in mud. There's cars that are being pulled out in the middle of... You guys are living in it right now. I'm about to fly into it. What do you got to say about the flooding in California? Sinkholes and everything.
I was just doing an Indian rain dance and things went out of control.
Why did you do that? Yeah, it's fair. California gets dry and then we overshoot.
Yeah,
I mean,
so we had a bridge go out like within, I don't know, a mile or two from my house. And it's pretty hectic, man. There's just massive flooding everywhere. I hydroplaned 3 times driving downtown like a week ago.
Wow,
and, that's kind of scary, you know.
Yeah.
You just don't put on the brakes. I've seen License to Drive. I know.
And this is up in like the Sacramento area, right? And then in Santa Cruz, like luckily, most of the people that are living in the mountains, they're not flooded like this, but because the water is it's eroding the hills, you've got just redwood trees falling all the time.
We had all those fires, and so it's not collecting the water like it normally would, and it's also the fact that you have just burnt. Like what's left on the forest floor is not really conducive to the water just like soaking in, so it's just like it's bad.
I mean, don't get me wrong, we're not the Weather Channel, but like this is crazy because the synchronicity of
so is that Seacliff right there?
I was about to say the Seacliff cement ship, right? So you got the destruction of the boat, destruction of the pier.
So the boat was already on its side, but now apparently I've gotten word that it's been pushed out a bit, which is crazy. It's a cement ship. It's been there since the 20s or earlier.
Yeah.
My dad actually had gone inside of it probably in the 70s.
Shriner parties.
There was a ballroom inside of it. So they used to have dances in there and stuff.
My grandfather used to go to Scottish Rite dances there with his
So now apparently the pier is mostly gone. From what I understand, which is also true for Capitola.
Yeah. So then the Capitola, which was the original capital during the Zorro times, right? Capitola Wharf. If I do search. Well, you don't even need to do it now. You can just find it, but it's washed away. And so the restaurants and things also, you can't get to the restaurants. And there was
no real restaurants on the Capitola one. What there was like a bait shop. The restaurants exist on the one downtown, the wharf by the boardwalk. And that one is still intact, and I believe it's actually open again even. But
really? Okay.
Yeah,
that's
so the
good.
pile drivers of that one, I guess everything is a bit stronger. So, but it's crazy. You're like this many years. So like I've always kind of looked at the cement ship as kind of like I've lived along to see it. Like I used to fish off of it. My sister and I used to do like the Marilyn Monroe thing over the vent that would just like blow up from below every so often, you just like get on top of it and wait, and then it goes whoosh, but it's like that. I have a lot of memories with that ship, and now it's been on its side for so long, and now this just feels like, okay, it's done. Because do you think anybody's going to rebuild that pier? Probably not. With no cement ship to walk on. What's the incentive for money, to spend
a
money
state
in that
beach,
way?
right?
Yeah, it's pretty much done, and so that's a lot of memories for me gone.
So
I've been yeah.
You said the Scottish Rite sank it and fill it with cement. I mean, is this something?
No. So here's this boat was, get this, made of cement. So the
Yeah.
Seacliff cement ship is it was a boat made during World War II in Oakland, along with several other boats. The SS Palo Alto is its name. And so what they were doing is, first off, they were really afraid that the Japanese knew everything about California because there's so many Californians. I mean, California was a Japanese territory, essentially. And so they looked at it like, well, we better first off blow up all of the trains. So all of the public transportation systems, we don't want people, if the Japanese land in one part of California, imagine how quickly they would be able to get to another part of California. So they destroyed all of the infrastructure during the beginning of World War II, right before World War II took off, and just made it impossible to get back. Before this, my grandmother would go from Oxnard and Ventura to Santa Cruz to the beach on a train for a day trip. You know what I mean? Like for $1 or whatever. It was the way it was. And they completely tore it apart. Meanwhile, in Oakland, everyone was moved into Oakland because Ford, he had all these Irish protesters in the Midwest and in Detroit. And they said, well, we're unionizing and we want to have, better pay. And so what Ford did was he fired them all and he bought new factories and he got people that started doing this in Oakland with the military contracts. And he built signs all the way to the south into Georgia, midnight trains that said, and paid to put this on barns, saying indoor cooling at the Ford factories with pictures of Black Americans working indoors in factories. And it's like, see, we're not going to pay the Irish unions. What we're going to do is we're just going to convince other workers that they can work for us. And so they brought a bunch of people to Oakland and then they had them building ships. But then they were worried if they knew that the ships were being built in Oakland, that they would bomb Oakland. So they figured what we'll do is we'll use Oakland as a decoy and we'll build these cement ships. And then that's the other question, because a lot of them were saying that the cement ships would have actually been really useful because you would have had so many boats. You'd also have a cement ship, and the cement ship, you bring it with you and you can land stuff on it. So, I mean, there was a lot of questions about what they were going to do, but eventually they just sort of gave up on it. And in World War II, it just kind of they were like, hey, maybe if someone bombs something, they'll bomb this cement ship that's not in use. And after the war, it just turned into an entertainment space that was managed by the Freemasons in different groups. I don't know.
Andreas, did you get this from going to the museum at Seacliff and just retaining it, or what? Or is it
I mean, that plus, I always as a kid would go to the boat and climb on it up until I was 10, and then they made it impossible.
Well, we used to actually go around and jump. So there was a 4th of July, I think, where I was down at the beach one time, and it was still, because it hadn't turned on its side yet. And so we would leap onto it in the middle of the night. Super sketchy, actually.
Dude, you know what? You just reminded me. So, for the last couple episodes, I'm trying to remember the name of the historian from Cabrillo who's rad. Sandy Leiden. So Sandy Leiden did a tour one time. I actually went to a couple of them of his tours, and he'll take you around Santa Cruz and explain things about the history of things. So he has a whole definitely, he's got some books on the history of Santa Cruz, which are pretty interesting, and talks about that whole area. We should get him on the show. Yeah, talk about China Beach.
I would like to hear somebody talk. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I should ask my dad too, because after Letterman was closed in Presidio, he was forced to find another job in the Oakland Army base, and that paid for the house for another year until he lost it. So I should ask my dad about that. Where you say that
I would like to know about that
there and then shipped down there to Santa Cruz.
We do a Japanese thing where they talk about Japanese history in Santa Cruz every year, and they talk about all the Shintoist temples that are in the mountains that have been there since before the Spanish, although they argue about that. And the mass exodus. Yeah, the Shumei though, their story is that they've been going there since the Viking period, which is pretty interesting. It's centuries before.
Right.
You guys remember the 2011 storm in California?
Yeah.
I remember the tsunami in Japan.
Is that the tsunami you're talking about, or?
Well, there was this. They said there was a extreme storm and catastrophic flood scenario in 2011 that they dubbed Arc Storm.
Was that when El Nino? Was that El Nino or La Nina? Because right now we're having a storm that's literally the tail end of a La Nina right now.
I mean, so I remember basically that there was this huge storm that was associated with the Fukushima thing, right? And so there was all these boats that hit the coast in California, and there was a lot of devastation because Santa Cruz was the furthest west. So it was the point that got hit the hardest from this far flung thing. But it didn't seem like it was as bad as in 2016 or 2017 when all the reservoirs filled up, right? So
is Fukushima still pouring radiation into the ocean? Is that like still a thing? I mean,
Nobody
I know it's
talks about
years
it.
after.
yeah, I don't even know if you're allowed to admit that that's a thing, allegedly.
Right, because that's just like a huge variable in the world. And so like this is so unscientific, but I'm going to tell you like kind of like a weird thought that I've had is that, you know, when you look at like disease development, is it possible that that certain diseases are actually kind of like a way for nature to like register, like when nature registers what's being given to it and then it wants to like deal with that in certain ways, like it could be like something that's like here like trying to naturally prepare us for you know what is going on. So like I don't know, I thought about that. I'm like, Fukushima's been freaking going off for a long time, and
I
like
always
that's
thought,
like
I always thought
yeah.
that Fukushima was like conspiracy to nuke America because of the conveyor belt of Pacific. You know, they try to leak
It
the
just
radiation
feels
all the way
like,
to California.
isn't it just like so Japan, right? So it's like you got obviously Fukushima, you had Hiroshima, Nagasaki, like you know these terrible events, and then you have Godzilla. And like, is it a coincidence that Blue Oyster Cult was famous for their song Godzilla and was also equally famous for their song Don't Fear the Reaper? You know, it's
Dude,
like
Blue Oyster Cult's great.
I mean, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it's like what? Because that was the thing with Godzilla, right? It was radiation. He was the result of radiation, and they were also kind of friends with Godzilla in respect. There's like a dignity to Godzilla that's not true for other movie monsters, right?
So, but
It's like,
radiation.
I
Oh, I
thought-
better put on my moderate search if I put fear porn into the title. But no, it didn't help at all. Moderate, strict. How about that? No, get rid of the word porn at all. Okay, basically, radiation fear, propaganda. How about radiophobia?
What?
Boom, there it is. Radiophobia is the fear of ionizing radiation. This is a oil company propaganda technique to make people afraid of atom punk futurism. They were saying, hey, you know what? The future is going to be out of the hands of everybody if we all have this radio-based freedom.
right, but that's what I'm speaking to is adaptation. And so like this is why Crowley changed the name of justice to adjustment, right? Is that he was looking at nature and he's like things adjust accordingly. And so I gotta wonder if some of the things that we see as terrible, if they're actually like nature trying to freaking cope. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
that's
because
what I Ching is all about. It's about the book of change. You know, you got to go along, play along. It's just
Funny enough, the other day I was doing Neuropa with my German friends and Austrian Raf, and eventually we got the episode in trouble. It was banned, and I was like, "What do we do?" Because it was Martin and Raf. They're like, they spoke German, they didn't use any profanity. So what could it have been? And we were very polite. And it turned out there was like a timestamp to the moment where we're talking, and I'm sure this will get in trouble for doing it as well because we're doing it again somehow. The nuclear radioactive miso soup phenomena, right? Which is this cool thing because miso soup enzyme is this. I'm just going to do it again, and we'll just keep doing it until they let us keep it on the show.
miso soup is just tofu estrogen.
Actually, way
Soy.
weirder.
miso soupy.
Where's the enzyme? That's horrible. What is it hiding? The
Two Life Crew miso.
Miso enzyme. Come on.
It's a Full Metal Jacket reference.
Yeah.
Fermented soybean paste is made from, what is the name of the thing? I had it last time and it came up so quickly.
But what are you trying to say? You're saying that miso actually
There it
absorbs
is.
radiation?
Yeah, it does. Aspiragus oryzus. I mean, or maybe allegedly. I don't know. Maybe that's what we're in trouble for. We're supposed to say.
Don't they say that about kelp?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. So hippies say it does.
Kelp,
How about that?
Kelp, yeah, kelp definitely, because kelp is full of iodine, and iodine pills absorb radiation, right? That's what you need to do.
This is going to get us in trouble, I'm sure. But, so some people, they believe that stuff, right? That's just some crazy stuff that Eddie believes, right? So just calm down. Don't take our video down. But yeah, there's people talking about it, right? We're allowed to talk about people talking about it.
One second. Is my volume too loud now? Because
no, I think you sound great. This is exactly what I've always dreamed of. I love hearing you clearly with that microphone. And it glows blue. That's so cool. That's so rad. But all right, so here's this stuff called Aspergillus oryzae, which is the thing that makes the miso. And what it does is it eats the protein, and in the process, it breaks proteins down into amino acids. And in doing that, it pulls out heavy metals. That is just a function of what it does. Now, maybe that helps people, maybe it doesn't. I'm not saying anything. Please, YouTube,
there's some good
for the love of
metals out
God.
there.
Yeah, there's some good metals.
Ayurvedically, you'll just eat some colloidal gold or whatever,
So
and these are also this can excrete gold, which is interesting. So I can find if I type in nano.
So this is a fungus. Is that what it is, or what is an enzyme? You said, right?
Right. So what's the Andreas? You know everything. What's the type of mushroom that people brought out? So when the BP oil spill happened, which by the way was the biggest criminal fine in history for a company, Pfizer was second to that for misrepresenting products. But anyways, I know that there was people who showed up with like mushroom spores. What was it? They were mycelium to deal with the oil spill. And that idea was rejected because it was like, oh, that's just too crazy or whatever. But the oil sank in the ocean, and it's awful. But
somebody was using, was it blue hay oil? So the one that I loved the most was they had a oil spill. We were taking bundles of blue hay and they were seeding it with certain kinds of fungus. So the blue hay would get out into the water and it would move around and it would soak up all this oil. It would collect oil for miles around. It would be amazing how much oil it could pull in. And then it would start to be digested by the mycelium. I forget which kind. I think it might have been turkey tail or oyster mushroom.
Derp von Franz says oyster, and I think he's right.
Yeah.
And oyster. So maybe that could tie back to blue oyster cult right there.
That's not bad. Because Paul Stamets, yes, I remember the experiment where Paul Stamets used blue oyster mushrooms. He blew blue oyster mushrooms in order to digest the sugars out of the oils in the plastics to actually turn the oils into loose glucose.
So is that the real meaning of blue oyster cult, and that the song Godzilla is actually like what basically their mission statement?
Do you remember his mother, Paul Stamets, saved his mother from the Reaper with the Blue Oyster Cult? Like that's actually the biggest thing for me.
Can you look at album cover? Look at
the
single.
I gotta cry for a second about this story because it made me like so teared up. This is an Oprah moment. So basically, Paul Stamets, he loves mushrooms, and he's started out as kind of a lumberjack who just took some mushrooms. Like, whoa, these are interesting. I'm gonna go to community college. But after that, he got really into it, and now he's saving the world after saving America. Like biodefense needs mushrooms. He kind of segued into that. But his mother, Christian Scientist, dying from some sort of I don't even remember which cancer, but it was bad. And she hadn't looked into it. And then finally they go and he's going to try anything to save her. And they're like, well, there's nothing we can do. Well, there's one study that's being done on a kind of mushroom. And he's like, wait a second, I'm the one doing that study. Straight up. So then he puts his mother into that study. The mushroom saves his mother. Right.
Oh
which now she's alive and everything, cures the cancer. And I feel like it's part of the trade-off. Like he started the mushroom cult. Paul Stamets made mushrooms cool again for everybody. And they know without Paul Stamets, mushrooms aren't going to make it as far. Like he's the ambassador to communicate humans and mushrooms, like the homeostasis cathedral with the spelunking umbilical tubes.
Why is this reminding me of The Fountain from Darren Aronofsky, where he's got the monkey and then his wife is. I remember what disorder she had, but he's trying to cure his wife, and it's like, yeah, that's.
I see it.
Yeah, because it's personal. Fair. You know what I mean? Like it's like this isn't just my work that I'm doing to save, people around the world. I'm saving it for my love. I'm doing it for my loved one, and that's the connection, I guess.
Well, the fountain. I mean, we see a lot of Tree of Life symbol in there, right?
The fountain. I mean, I actually own the graphic novel from Darren Aronofsky, and I forget the artist, but that is a Kabbalah movie. I mean, that is about Kabbalah. So basically, you see both sides of the Kabbalistic tree in that film, and when you go into the past and the future from his fantasy. So in the past, he eats. He puts the stuff on his skin. It kind of has like a Last Crusade kind of moment where it's like, oh, it's going to heal my wound. But then it ends up that he becomes one with nature. So that's Malkut. That's Earth. That's all the way at the bottom. And then he's traveling up the Kabbalistic tree into Keter in the future. And so when he comes to that 0 point, so it's showing you both sides of the continuum, right, in the fountain. And then he's in the middle with the seed that he puts at the grave. So you have the symbolic gesture that actually has truth to it embedded in the.
What wasn't he consumed? Or he was consumed by the grass or by fungus? Remember how his body was completely consumed by the vegetation? Like you became one with the tree that became the seed, right? Became.
Did you guys see the Jungle Cruise movies about the fountain? The Rock or whatever? Was it? Is it The Rock or the Rock Jungle Cruise? He's basically so there's the 3 Caballero kind of characters, and he's an immortal who's been in the rainforest since the 15th century or 16th century, because he was cursed when he found the Fountain of Youth, and he's one of the knights. I don't know, like, was it knight? Did I find that? I was going to show him as a. I don't know. There's you got to. I mean, spoiler alert, I guess. But yeah, he's immortal. I don't know if I can find the picture of him dressed up as a knight. But so he's just been hiding out in the rainforest ever since, basically. And then at the end of the movie, he like gets to become part of the tree again. Like he gets to be like the roots grow through him, and he turns to stone, and that's what he's wanted because he's been stuck forever, immortal.
Oh,
my kid watched this movie. I haven't seen it yet, but
oh, dude, it's so gay, and I mean that like it's the first movie they said that's got an openly gay character, but it's like such a weird like homophobic trashing of this guy. So this guy back here, right? He's with this lady, and you find out he's gay. It's like, okay, big deal, not a huge deal, but they make it a big deal, and you're like, why does it matter? Like he's in a freaking boat. Yeah. Like there are arrows being shot at the guy right now. I don't really need to hear about his sexual preferences while he's trying to survive in a
right. To get the kind of Titanic too.
Titanic was fine. Titanic was fine.
I think it's Disney CEO Bob Chapek's answer to the Florida "Don't Say Gay."
God, I've told the story before, but I'll tell it again because it's horrible. One time I saw Titanic 3D. Have you ever seen Titanic 3D? Oh my God, it was amazing. So I'm at this desert festival, and I don't know what kind of research chemicals we were on, but we go to the San Diego movie cinema, and we were watching the movie. Like, yeah, let's go see, like, after the festival, we'll go see Titanic 3D. And we get there and we're watching it. It's incredible. Basically, the boat is coming towards you. The packages are being, it's like an IMAX, like ride, you feel like you're there. And like the fact that they're all going through it and you're a little inebriated, you're like, oh my God. And all of a sudden it's like, this is August 12th, the last night the Titanic sunk or whatever it is. I forget. But then we look at each other and we're like, wait, what day is it? And we're like, it's August 12th. We're like, oh my God. And so we're just like, man, what if this is it? Maybe we're going to open a time meld because it's 3D and we're going to be able to stop the iceberg from hitting the boat, and we can't. But then we come to terms with the fact that it had to happen. It was a lot. The Titanic 3D was a lot.
Here's a bit of a Titanic sink is that, now the Republican, the representative, they're trying to draft a bill to abolish the IRS. And, how much do you guys believe in the urban legend?
There's validity to it. There were some big players with a lot of money that were opposed to the Federal Reserve that sunk on the Titanic.
Right? The Astor, and who else was on board?
What's it called? The usage tax? They want to replace the tax with a usage tax. And so this is what Stefan was talking about, the debt jubilee.
Tax, I think it's called
consumption tax. Yeah, that's right. Consumption tax, which is a debt jubilee kind of idea, right? And this is Stefan brought this up, the debt jubilee, that they're going to replace they're going to replace all taxes with this idea. Is it in the Wikipedia page even? I think
the thing is that they're not canceling Federal Reserve, they're canceling the IRS, the henchman that collects, but the Federal Reserve is still in place. So I'm like,
they don't need the IRS really anymore for what they're trying to do. I think that they've been trying to phase it out anyway, because like the thing is, they have enough people that are just like serfs that live in as long as you're not a property owner, it's not as important to have IRS. IRS kind of continue the idea of the mafia. If you look up the mafia, they were the Arab takers, where the word mafia comes from. I'll just type in mafia. That's easier. So the Arabs used to go around and collect taxes from people that weren't Muslim, right? If you were a Christian or something like that, in order to protect your property. And the people that would take that tax were called the mafia. And the mafia, that's where the Sicilians get the word, arguably. Some people might argue that. But the fact is that they were part of this janissarial group, and they did do this. So at this point, the IRS, that's continuing the same idea of these henchmen that are making sure that these
isn't that like the police were slave patrol?
Well, so that's again, this is the difference. One is a feudal system and one is a Valayan system. So they're both feudal, but there's like several proxies. One is you get a bunch of people and you own them, and that's a lot of work. The other is you get some people you own and they own people. And that's a lot easier. That's how patriarchies are started, but that's how everything happens. You get people, you say you're going to be in charge of these groups of people, you're going to collect taxes from them, you're going to force them to work on the land that we permit you to own, you're going to give us taxes from that. That's the pharaoh. That's what lords do to Valayans, and that's where the word villain comes from, because when the Valayans lost their property, they just took stuff.
Is that in fact the etymology of villain?
Yeah, villain.
This is syncing with my Alhambra dim sum experience over the weekend. Alhambra is the Muslim capital in Spain, and when the Moors took over Spain, right? The Alhambra Castle, that one.
Oh yeah, I love that place.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful building.
That's where Washington Irving wrote. I think as soon as he finished his Christopher Columbus myth, he moved to Alhambra and he lived inside.
Did you see that it said not to be confused with villain?
Right.
So but that for me on Wikipedia, that alone means nothing. So it's not to be confused with this thing. I want to know, is that the etymology? Is there an etymological connection there? So where does it say it's etymology? Villain. There we go.
Villain. Yeah. We can go hear the word villain and see if it comes from etymology. It might say here somewhere etymology from Valayan, which is from Vilanus, which referred to the bound to the soil of the villa and worked on an equivalent of plantation in late antiquity. Think of the robbers, the robber barons, right? The highway robbery, right? Because they have to travail the highways, which were controlled by the Romans.
This is an elite thing, because it says here, which was referred to a person later of a less than kingly status. So that's
right, but a higher.
Right, but this shit always gets me. I'm like, when we talk about the way the language develops or whatever, I'm like, dude, there's examples of that where you're pagan and you're basically, so essentially a civilian is what we're talking about here. So a regular person, citizen.
Because a serf is under a Valayan. So the Valayans control serfs. And then the Valayans pay taxes to the lords.
Oh, that's why Seneca is full of villains, because it's serf town.
It's a serf town.
That's what problem.
I think you might be onto something with that. I don't know, but the usage tax is interesting. Thinking about the debt jubilee, I think that's coming. Are we on to DMT Clockwork?
Right, but we get a fake jubilees. Just like when the queen does the freaking jubilee, it's just a celebration of what is in place. There's nothing that happens other than a celebration. It's like 4th of July or something. So you have this frequently usage of terms that like jubilee means forgiving all debt and releasing all servants.
But
I'm saying anthropologically.
Right.
And so then when you're talking about our treatment of the term today, what does that mean? It means
an international economy that will be replacing all state economies by taking the G8, 12, whatever, 20, and putting them into they're going to erase the back and forth, because there's Ukraine owes money to the United States, owes money to China, owes money to the Ukraine, back and forth for 30 or 40 generations of debt. That's all just going to disappear. The state debts will disappear.
Right. That's the thing, though. It's not a jubilee unless if we get it. Just
it's
money won't matter.
The student loan thing is right.
Yeah.
That jubilee has been on pause.
Yeah.
But it's going to have to happen. Because nothing's getting better. It's not like people all of a sudden are going to have money.
Right, but that was they were like, oh, can we do this? And then it was like, no, dude, you can't actually do this. Do you think that all the colleges are just going to be like, yeah, whatever, you're gonna have there's that's just not happening.
Especially in California, it's people have no idea why this hyperinflation is happening. It's forgive all student debt, student loan, and give $300,000 to each the reparations.
You always have to approach it with wealth by scale. And so just in the same way that when we use a term, we say the Hollywood elite, it's motherfucker might have a lot of money, but look at wealth by scale. It's insane. So literally what the distinction is, and people say, oh, people with lots of money, they have their stuff tied up in you know, their businesses and whatever, but it's like, you know, do they have access to that much to the amount of money that they're supposed to have? But when you're looking at the obscene amount, it's just like, it's unreal. Have you guys ever looked at online at type in wealth by scale for a Google search? You can probably find the actual thing. Yeah, shown to scale. There it is, top.
I was listening.
Go to the top website there. Yeah, here we go. So if you scroll to the right, they'll show you. Okay, so here we have what is 1 million. You know, 1 million, and then 1 billion.
Yeah, it's out of reach.
And then you go into then you have the wealth. But this will eventually like get into like you know, probably.
Oh my god, it's taking like hours to get through the wealth of Jeff Bezos.
No, that's the thing. And so like it's just like when people so like when people talk about like, you know, the top tax rate and all these kind of things, it's like there's validity to that argument. And a lot of what we're dealing with is just fucking propaganda from on high to not like acknowledge like how much money we're fucking dealing. Yeah, so this is annoying. So this used to not have the fucking stupid COVID shit, and I used to refer people to this, and then I almost like don't want to share it because I'm just like, we could vaccinate every person in the like it's like, no, just look at the fucking wealth by scale.
This is why I'm glad people like Jeff Bezos exist. Sometimes I'm like, hopefully he's like selfish enough not to do it. But then again, you know, he's gonna vaccinate everybody just to like look like him or something. Who knows?
Right. Well, it's also just showing you what is the cost of these things and what could we do. And so obviously they're just going to choose the most noble cost to show you like, hey, we could take care of this. We could, you know, like, but you know, yeah, it's
nuts.
It's totally nuts. Yeah.
You know, during this time with all the flooding, and when I saw Ellen DeGeneres crying about this river in your backyard, I was just like, yeah, flush it down the toilet. You know, like these $1 million homes. Like,
right, but what I'm arguing is that we're kind of like socially engineered to fucking react to what the celebrities are doing, and it's like, I'm sorry, like it's like that classic, like it's just a great big festering neon distraction, right? So it's like, yeah.
I just saw this thing that's kind of interesting because, you know, Eddie, you posted this. I love the Synchronous Twitter now. I go to it every day. Everyone, you should be following it. This link here, though, talking about Zeke saying he's going to just stop trying to cheat death at 75, meaning he's going to stop trying. I mean, basically, the idea is that people they're trying to let people die. They're trying to cap lifespans for normal people. What do you think?
Well, if you look at it, he was part of he's part of the Obamacare, right? He was an architect of Obamacare, and he basically think it's not economical to sustain life anymore because, you know, all these pensioners are eating up. I mean, there's no better definition of wasteful eater than pensioners, you know, who are eating up the earth and hoping to die of a slow death. You know, they're like, just hurry up. You know, they want to just run this conveyor belt, just rush everybody off the cliff, and he's trying to be. Look at it, Nick. Canada's going to do the suicide thing, you know, this year.
Yeah, it looks like a fucking stock photo of just somebody, like you're like, you know, type in old man with glasses, and like he's just like,
he's got some Podesta vibes for sure. But
yeah, he looks like his cousin.
Yeah,
Podesta doesn't look like a stock photo. Podesta looks weird as hell. It's like the guy from Mad Magazine, what's his name? Like, you know, mated with Barbara Streisand or something. It's like, it's weird.
Go back to the Brad Pitt one. That was kind of interesting because today he just claimed that he has congenital melancholy. I mean,
what is this from? What is though? This is in Babylon. He poses as Ophelia.
No. Actually, that's before Babylon. That was a GQ shoot.
This is a GQ photo that was used in the magazine.
Yeah, and he's basically trying to emulate the Waterhouse painting of Ophelia. You know,
yo, Andy, what do you think about Brad Pitt dressed as Ophelia, or, you know, in the pose?
Yeah, dude. As soon as I saw that, I made the connection. I was like, yeah, that looks exactly like. Well, it is supposed to be. Is it supposed to be from Melancholia? Is he like
the thing is that the painting inspired the movie. You know,
obviously,
Lars von Trier, yeah.
Have you guys ever seen Lars von Trier's statement for the film Melancholia, like his official director statement?
No, what was it?
Look up Lars von Trier,
from the director of Antichrist.
Director
do an episode on that movie.
Director statement. Yeah, it was on the original website. It was just like, on the page, like it just said, just statement from the director or whatever. And basically, he was saying that he didn't realize the movie he was making as he made it. And he said that when he was shown the final product, he was like, "What the fuck is this?" And so basically, he stated that he was trying to go for something like Visconti, like the what is it, like romanticism, like French romanticism, maybe something like that. Or is that Italian? I'm sorry, I'm dumb. But anyway, he was basically saying that he could only hope that there was some rock among the way to break a freaking tooth, is how he ends it. And I'm like, I paired Melancholia with Melancholia and the Infinite Sadness, and I'm pretty sure that the fucking director's statement from Lars von Trier is speaking to that.
I mean, it was a really, I honestly didn't like the movie, and I agreed, because in the statement he said maybe it's crap. But the thing is, then I saw the movie with David Sink and I loved it, because it obviously is just, it's actually an incredibly beautiful movie. And I just feel like the soundtrack from Smashing Pumpkins Melancholia album,
I think it's pretty far down there. But yeah, anyway. Oh, you know, it in other words, the movie's kind of soft, even though it's about alchemy. Both the album and the film are referencing the same thing, and that's Albrecht Dürer's Melancholia 1. There it is. Go back a little bit. There. See the
there you go. 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
this is incredible, though. This is
yeah.
really good.
So show Melancholia 1 if you could, Albrecht Dürer. So Melancholia 1, Albrecht Dürer.
What Tarkovsky movie does he recreate?
See, it's right there. It's right there. Yeah, Tarkovsky movie.
He recreates that Dürer painting in a movie.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, I don't know if it's The Passion or if it's something else.
Yeah.
But...
Oh, yeah.
Can we zoom in on the magic square real quick?
Sure.
Can we zoom in?
You know that?
Yeah.
You know this guy or what? The square or no?
The magic square in the upper right corner.
It's right behind it.
Oh, the number square, yeah.
Isn't that the same? Isn't that the same magic square that's on the La Familia?
So
below a bell too.
No, so he invented this. And actually, the year that he did this etching is encoded into the magic square itself at the bottom where it says 1514. And so this magic square was realized by Albrecht Dürer himself. So this is etched into wood, right? So this is basically a stamp, is what you're looking at, which is pretty phenomenal. But if you look and see where it says Melancholia 1, it's actually a bat. The world is a vampire. So in the movie Melancholia, there's like a scene where they're at the table towards the beginning, and it's like everyone at the table was in a movie involving vampires or shows involving vampires. So you got Kiefer Sutherland was the Lost Boys. Kirsten Dunst was Interview with the Vampire. Gary Oldman was like, I can't remember if it was like he's a vampire hunter or something. Yeah, he had a whole thing.
He was Dracula in the Keanu Reeves movie.
There you go. Yeah, it's just like, I was like, how is it that everyone in this freaking thing is a vampire? And if you listen to it with the album, it you know, they're there, and would that have struck me if I didn't hear him say the world is a vampire? Like,
dude, so it's interesting so I went to Spain a while ago, and when I was in Spain, I went to like one of my family's home places, which is Valencia, and Valencia's got a pretty interesting logo, which is this bat. And at one point, you know, for their soccer team, the Batman company, you know, DC tried to sue Valencia, like, you cannot use our bat. And they were like, that's freaking nuts.
Bat, though. Yeah,
they're like, we've been using that bat. Literally, this is the bat we've had since the 11th century, or probably before that, actually, because the leaders of Valencia, the family, came from Janissarial children of Vlad the Impaler, who was from Transylvania. So the Slavic side and the Arabo-Slavics that were in, you know, they were Mazaravs living in Valencia. And the bat, to me, I had this major awakening because there's so many freaking mosquitoes. And I realized bats aren't vampires. Mosquitoes are, obviously. And there's no screen on any of the windows. So the thing I figured out to do was play bat sounds out of my phone. If you play bat sound out of your phone, all the mosquitoes would freak out, stop flying around the room, go to the wall, go to the corners, and then one by one, like 101 Dalmatians, sneak out of the window. And so
that's hilarious, dude.
So you got to have that.
You can use sound frequency to get rid of mosquitoes. That's great. Let's get some money off that.
But
Hell
the bottom
yeah.
line is there's a reason why bats are so important, because they kill disease. They kill these things that kill us,
They
and
didn't
they
start
fight
Corona.
vampires. They
Yeah.
bats fight
Water is
viruses.
not.
I don't know, in a way. I don't know.
Is
that
that
does
why
kind of that
Batman
Corona
is what he
bat
is?
soccer ball, you know.
Oh,
Batman's
can
cool.
I
And,
speak
yeah, and
to some-
Batman is connected to Valencia.
Cleaning up the streets, right?
Hey,
Uh,
Andreas, can you look up real quick, because now King Charles, now we got King Charles. There was an article not too long ago about his direct relation to Vlad, the Impaler.
Really? That's great.
Yeah. I just wonder how
Probably
yeah,
not close enough. See, I think Vlad the Impaler was probably actually a cool guy, and he gets a bad rap. Although, no, I'm serious.
The Impaler,
Vlad-
the
enemies on
Impaler
a
part
snake.
was just an innuendo.
You gotta understand, like, he was kidnapped as a boy. He was raised by the Ottoman Empire. He was taught a completely different culture. He ended up back home as the king, and he had the safest city in the most barbaric countries. And people were always aware how safe it was there. And the reason was, of course, that he was a psychopath and he would kill you. Like, so if you came into his town, he'd be like, put a piece of gold on the fountain. Put like 20 pieces of gold in the fountain. Leave your change purse on the fountain. Go ahead, just do it, and then come back for it and see what happens. Guy comes back and he's like, "You're right. It's amazing. In fact, it was so. There's 22 pieces of gold here. I had 20, and now there's 20. Just like someone will give me extra." He's like, "I'm glad you said that. Everyone here knew I would have killed them, like in the most creative way, if they had stolen from you, obviously, because it's my kingdom. But if you had not mentioned that there was 2 extra pieces of gold, then I would have put you on a spike, right?" So this is how he kept order in a place that otherwise didn't have order. He also would like nail people's what do you call it, turbans to their heads if they didn't remove their turbans when they went inside, because he had rules against wearing hats indoors. Dude was completely insane. That's not the best influence, I think, for him to say, "Oh yeah, I'm related to him." Of all the people he's related to, he's focusing on that. That's the problem with that. Otherwise, though, cool guy.
You know what? Romania must be a great place for Andrew Tate to hide in, but now he's arrested.
You know what? I'm
couldn't even protect him.
I'm gonna wait till Thursday. Hopefully, one of these days, Ryan Stone's gonna come and talk about Tate, because the thing is, I don't really have strong opinions, and all the women I've heard from say that they like him. Maybe that's just Nexium talk, but they seem to say that they weren't kidnapped. So until I hear otherwise, maybe I think he's probably just kind of a chump. But the fact that everyone is coming at him, it makes me think he's probably shrewdly got involved with some oil smuggling for Russia or something. I don't know. That's a complete hypothetical.
If you look at all the symbols he's been posting on Twitter, he's pretty much signaling everybody. The 33 cars he has.
Yeah.
And to Greta.
No, the 33 cars he had.
Thank you.
Was he saying, "Help me, bring
No,
me back into the fold"?
Seriously though, I'm not kidding. I think that the Tate oil thing could be the thing we're not thinking about. I'm not kidding. I think that's probably what he's really trying to do. And they're like, "Hey, you're not allowed to buy oil from Russia unless you're buying it from Romania through Russia." That's the thing. Have you heard about this? Russian oil, Romania. If you guys how is Romania making money? Romania's independence from Russian oil, or Romania backs Russian oil embargo, or Romania ready to give up Russian oil. So what's going on is all these private companies that are able to buy oil, and then they can bring it through Romania and then sell it as Romanian oil. That's what the mafia and a lot of Russian mobsters live in these other countries, right? And they've built these empires. So they're working with whoever they can work with because they're Russian. And so this guy comes in, he's trying to make a bunch of money. Here's $1 billion idea, right?
Actually, if you look at the map, you can tell Romania is somewhere between Ukraine, and the south is Serbia, right? And where was it? Not Montenegro. But then
Serbia's having crazy. Serbia's having crazy stuff right now. Yeah,
Kosovo is setting up roadblocks everywhere now. I don't know. They're about to fight the
Croatian and Slovenian hackers are slamming Serbia with DDoS attacks right now and trying to shut down their Ministry of Internal Affairs, Telecom Serbia, and they're trying to completely shut down all communications because something insane is about to happen in the former Yugoslav bloc. That is clear.
And Romania is right in the smack middle of it, and like you say, pipeline. I think they're preparing that Romania is the pathway, is the actual way to transport the oil. Because Ukraine is a no-go zone.
When they wanted to get Al Capone, they got him on tax evasion. You know what I mean? Like, just because somebody's getting something, you don't always know what's actually there. I mean,
right.
By the way, I just got to address this. So Joshua White in the comments says Magic Square of Jupiter. That's the same number of squares that's in the magic square of Jupiter. That's a good question. Whether or not Albrecht Dürer's square, that I'm pretty sure, at least from whatever I read on Wikipedia or in his book, that that was his creation. Whether or not that's the same one you'd see in the Babylonian squares translated to number, I'm not exactly sure.
Okay, here's another version of the square. Is in front
Thank
of
you.
the
Let's
La,
bring
La
it.
Familia, the cathedral in Barcelona.
Mhm.
Look it up. Look at Andreas. It's a different. It has repeating numbers. They have 2 repeating numbers.
What am I looking at? Which part of the cathedral? The
Yeah,
number.
it's right in the front. Just type Magic Square La Familia. It's the architect put it on the Okay, yeah, there you go. So if you look at it, has 2 10s.
Yeah, and this is also a 4x4 square, but it's not the same numbers that we see in Albrecht Dürer's. And so actually, so if you
Those all
watch
add up to 33.
Oh.
Yeah. If you add it, right? Is it 33? The 1 plus 11 plus 8.
Yeah, Bill is a
It's
math
nice
teacher.
having a math teacher here. I was about to say. The other day, I was so tired, and this kid asked me what was 8 times 6 or something. I forget. And I said 42 instead of 48 because I was so tired. And I knew that kid immediately lost respect for me because I didn't think about what I was doing. It was like, it was my biggest sadness in life right now. But yeah, magic squares.
Right. So if you'll notice in the film Melancholia, there's a scene where Charlotte Gainsbourg has in front of her a bunch of chocolates, and the chocolates are arranged, and she pulls one chocolate from the layout and she puts it on the pillow of Kirsten Dunst. It's a 4x4 square. You'll notice that there'll be like a scene when they're preparing for the apocalypse and Kiefer Sutherland is like loading up the truck or whatever, or he's got supplies and he's bringing them out, and he's got the truck in positioned in such a way that it's just got 4x4. It's 4x4 truck, but it's like he placed that prominently in the scene. I'm convinced because of Albrecht Dürer's 4x4 square.
You know what? I just got an idea I never thought about. I'm going to start making sine waves for synthesizers using magic squares, because all you got to do is connect numbers and you get these sine wave patterns, and you can put them into like any DAW or pigment or something, and then that would make crazy sounds. Yeah, sigil magic for sound waves. That's the answer. We'll get back on that. I do want to ask though, like really, we'll get back to this, but
are we past the whole flood thing? Because I can hold that.
We can go back to flood. I just really
we'll go back later. We'll go back later.
All right. What do you guys? I just want to know: are DMT entities racist?
They're elitist. I don't know about racist.
It's everybody's body for crying out loud. It's everybody's pineal gland.
I was checking out. I like to read Afro.com. Afro.com is a really great publication. It's very, very cool publication, and but there's some things there that kind of talk about like engendered issues of persons of color versus Eurocentrics that have been decidedly called white, whatever that means.
So these are all kind of opinion pieces. Every
yeah.
All of them. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the way to put it. And I was coming across, as I was getting deep into it, there's a lot of great things because like Revolutionary Black Adventures Who Changed Everything, great article. But then there's this one, which I just couldn't turn away from. And it said psychedelic privilege. Are DMT entities racist? DMT users often come across strange things called machine elves dispensing advice and adventure. They were thought to be benevolent, but we can no longer ignore the black DMT experience. Safe and recreational drugs, one of the many. Yeah, I think so too. I mean,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be racist, but we need to make we can synthesize into a crack version of a DMT. I'm just kidding.
No, I mean there could be. I think alpha AMT might be a better. Yeah, you're right. I think Earth, Wind, and Fire like the alpha methyl. But there's one drug that unquestionably and uniquely shrouded in whiteness, a white drug, if you will. And we're not talking about cocaine. It's DMT. Everywhere you look, you can find the whitest cis het men singing the praises of DMT or related psychedelics, from Joe Rogan to Post Malone. And in case you expected it from all the white men being involved, the truth is that there are unsurprisingly hidden layers of racism here. You see, DMT may be shrouded in whiteness nowadays, but like everything else you think is white, the drug is actually has Latinx origins, Latinx origins. Yes, clearly jealous of their lacking cultural contributions in the sphere of recreational drugs, white folk decided to just outright culturally appropriate one. But if you remove
culturally appropriating the ingestion of a drug, that makes total sense. Continue.
A drug that breaks down boundaries, by the way.
I mean, we were talking the other day about how cancel culture is a cultural appropriation of the the bourgeoisie and the Marxists, and the Maoists. But if you remove status, good.
Have you guys
Sorry.
ever come across a machine elf? Because I never have.
Yeah,
Well,
totally.
Yeah.
I probably see it in the
It's a weird-
background. I mean, I saw like a really ornate background. Like I saw. Well, I'm talking about ayahuasca, not ingesting DMT, smoking inhalation. No, but I saw rotating, shuffling Mayan hieroglyphics. I mean, with all the funny little faces in the square, that are shuffling around, but
Sure.
extremely highly detailed. But it's moving around, and I don't know if the elves are moving.
I'm asking a specific question about elves. I want to know who's seen these elves for real, and are they somebody who I
saw Paul
trust?
Gray.
Well, okay,
All I
so
can say is that thoughts feel alive and sentient. That's about as far as I can take it.
I remember I was in the house that Ray and the Doors house, Jim Morrison's house on Venice Beach, and I took some DMT, and I saw these 7 crystal kind of spring cork women, were made of whiteness, of light, right? Which kind of feeds into this racism thing.
Yeah, it's very racist.
But they were made up of springs, clock springs, and that was 2008 or something like that, 2009. So I mean, that's a long time before I remember anyone else talking about that.
The first time I smoked DMT, I was looking at an oak tree, and I could see how to say it, the life of the movement of inside the tree. I could see like it was alive, but I could look at the ground below the tree, and I could see the root structure through the ground. Basically, it's hard to explain, but I saw the double torus of the tree, that it was that it not stopping at the soil, and it was like my ability to infer the root structure visually gave me a readout of that structure, and I could feel that inside myself, my own electromagnetic energy sphere was the equivalent, or not even that it's the equivalent, was the same thing that the tree was, but the tree didn't compound the issue with being conscious of consciousness. It just is consciousness. So I could see that it's a living thing, but it's got nothing on top of it. It's like Zen is life with nothing added. That tree was life with nothing added. And then it was that resonance. And so I kind of did that thing where I kind of fell backwards, and it's just okay, I saw it. I don't need to keep looking at things with my eyes open, I just laid back, which is very common.
But I also had a horrifying experience where I saw myself as death, and I was like, don't mess with me, and I put my hand on my shoulder, and then I ran home in my mind and put myself under my blanket. And I was like, and similarly, I've had a lot of friends who've taken substances and realized the spirits, if they're there, do not like to just have people fooling around. People need to take things seriously. And I think that they don't like to be disrespected. And this is, people that forget that it's not just for fun.
Hey, you know what? Since David mentioned about trees, I tell you this one thing. My wife's family's in Mexico, right? And she has a cousin who's pretty well off. They have this huge mansion right by it's south of Playa del Carmen. I stayed there before the outbreak, and we had a shaman that came in. This bruja, this witch. She came in to do some cleansing of the house, and the first thing she said when she walked in, because this is in the middle of the jungle, this is a big mansion in the middle of the Yucatan jungle, and she just she came in the door and she's like, "Oh my God, there's a lot of angry elves." I think she was saying, I think the name is Duented, or I forget the exact word, but it means elves, meaning she's saying every tree has an elf housing the elves are the protector of the trees.
Yeah,
so,
and everywhere I've been, people have these stories, right?
Yeah, so when they chop down all these trees to make this huge mansion without consoling these lost, these elves have no more home. They chop down the trees.
I see what you're saying.
But this is in Mexico. You're saying that, but there's also that in Iceland, and people in Paraguay and in Argentina. Everywhere I've ever been, in Santa Cruz Mountains, there was the books from the 19th century of the elves and gnomes living in the redwoods stories as well that have been displaced. So it's a thing. Every culture is talking about it.
Yeah, and actually, she felt that the room, it was a big living room that all the family, there's like 20 of us in there, and she just felt like we need to pray for these elves to let them go somewhere because they
Wow.
are angry. It's an angry energy, and the lights were going on and off. The garage was opening, closing by itself. So
Dang,
it's
my
like
house is made out of redwood trees, and now I'm wondering, oh man, I gotta get those guys some milk and move them into the forest. Brutal.
so these machine elves maybe it has something to do with that. That's what I'm trying to say. You know?
I'm convinced. I think honestly, the idea of machine elves is weird sounding to us because we don't like to accept that we're machines. Is the problem? And if you look at like a spring mechanism and you think about DNA and you realize that you basically are a series of these springs and where's a clockwork spring?
Technology is going to show us everything that we are, absent of a soul.
Yep.
So it's like everything but the life.
Right.
Geist.
Well, but that's I think the most important part, that we accept that the life is in everything, you know, and we have to start to see that we're a thing that's kind of created this idea of ego and separateness in order to exist separately from everything. But otherwise, we're just made up of the same dirt as everything, stardust as everything else. And we're made up of the same breath that's been there before us, and it was breathed into us, it'll be breathed out of us.
Right, but we're looking right now at an image of Enter the Void, and
Yeah.
in Tibetan Buddhism and Buddhism in general, there's this idea of what is it that makes human beings so significant, and I think that gets mixed up because people see that as like an ego thing or like a pride thing or something. But I think that there's actually something really dignifying in the acknowledgement of like what is the function of human beings developmentally that we have that makes us distinct, because one could make the argument that a whale is more involved than a human. What is it that makes humans what they are? And so in Buddhism, it's the possibility of enlightenment. But what enlightenment means then too is like, you know, who you going to talk to and what are they going to say? Because there's a lot of scams out there.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Not only that, but Buddhism itself kind of rejects the self, you know? So in a way, I mean, it's talking about the collective all, you know, the law of one and things like that as well. So we all return to that one. So there's nothing else but us out there anyway.
Right.
But there's work you're doing that's like light work that the body's doing to the soul.
Yeah.
A monk at Shasta Abbey told me once that what distinguishes the Buddha as the Buddha from everyone else at the time of death or whatever is that when they say when they die and they see a light and they're drawn to the light to go into the light. He said what distinguishes the Buddha is that he does not go towards the light. He turns around to the unknown, which is, you know,
run from the train. Yeah.
And that's actually, so like what the light is actually the tiniest tip on existence, but it's what stands out, and what doesn't stand out is everything else. And so the Buddha is the one who's not afraid of the unknown, to the point that on like a soul level, he's going to move in the other direction than the light.
This guy says that he saw a machine. His friends saw the elves were making a machine, and they turned around and saw him, and they said, "Look at the N-word is back." And another person reported. So I mean, apparently, like the elves, these machines don't like persons of color.
What I'm hearing, if a psychoanalyst was looking at this and related to it in the sense that they would relate to analyzing a dream, they might say, "Oh, it looks like you have some issues around this, and yet you're getting a reflection back to you." It's like sync works that way. It's like you can't, like when we do Radio 8 Ball, and it's like something happens that you're like, we had a pregnant woman on Radio 8 Ball with Andreas Jones. You know, the game is that you spin a wheel and there's all these different songs on the wheel, and whatever song. So somebody poses a question to the pop oracle, and should the wheel land on whatever song, that becomes the answer to their question to the pop oracle. So it's like we had a pregnant woman on, and the song that it landed on ended up having a line about having a stillbirth.
Wow.
And it was like, whoa. And because she was saying boy or a girl to the pop oracle. And so
if the Clockwork Elves can do that with a magic 8 ball, I can only imagine what they can do with Chat GPT and Dolly. I'm just saying, you know.
And this was on August 9th of whatever year, which was Helter Skelter Day, which was acknowledged in the thing before that happened. And also within 24 hours of when the iconic photo of Abbey Road was taken from when Sharon Tate died. And so anyway, we were talking about the zebra thing because it's a zebra crossing, and then she died on a zebra rug, and the Philip K. Dick zebra thing, and we were discussing this, and then she gets that song, and it's like that band just had these random songs, you know, and then they come out and they explain what they were thinking when they wrote the song and what things are in reference to. But the point of the whole reason I'm bringing this up is that it's like sync doesn't kill people; it shows you the wiring under the board. So in the same way, like if something comes through that's like a reflection, that like if he's having that DMT experience and he gets the N-word thrown at him, it's like, dude, this is in your own consciousness. You realize, like, I realize that you don't stop at your skin, let alone your electromagnetic energy field, but at the same time, like, this is your trip. So maybe you should talk to a psychologist about it and not have it arguing that's a jump to conclusions, Matt, to say it's the DMT that's racist. It's like maybe you have some racist stuff you're processing there, like either for yourself or what you're afraid of or whatever. You know, I'm sorry. I feel like Captain Obvious over here.
I kind of feel like
some people need to hear it.
Well, here's the thing: it's like I was brought up in a Catholic and Protestant household. My dad's Protestant, Seventh-day Adventist. My mom's Catholic. I was split between two churches. In Taiwan, my mom dragged me to the Catholic church, where I saw these Jesus and Mary with the baby Jesus, and they with the slanty eyes. I was like, wait a second, this Chinese Jesus, that's not what I read in my dad's book. It's a white Jesus. So I'm like, they're trying to sell, they're just a sale pitch. I mean,
low key though.
It's not even either of those too. That's the best part.
Yeah.
It's spiritual racism is how do you want to perceive what you want to believe in? I mean, you go to Africa, you see a black Jesus. Okay, if he's white,
right? But cultures adopt the thing. I always thought it was weird when people were like, "Oh, the Black Madonna, like, is this a cult thing?" I'm like, dude. I mean, maybe there's something I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I was like, well, that makes sense if you have a black culture is getting introduced. What, like, you know,
it's pretty reasonable that people in the south of France look like they're, you know, fun.
It'd just be so weird if, like, you know, you had your favorite band and you just had to, like, you know, create this whole other new thing to tell people about it and claim it was something else. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
What do you mean, like the changing?
Well, it's like, you know, why? Like, I get the cultures appropriate, like, you know, methodologies and beliefs and philosophies, but why not just go, yeah, that guy over there? You know what I mean? It has to, like,
right, but
everything, and that seems to me like a brainwashing technique, no matter what.
Yeah,
like, it's you. Don't worry, it's from your area.
Isn't there quite a distinction though between cultural appropriation and literally like pushing something onto a people or forcing them to incorporate their own?
I'm pretty sure
that
the 11th Crusade would have counted as pushing.
Right. If you hear me out on this, is, you know, Islam is spreading at an incredible rate, and I think there's one successful element of Islam is you don't worship a deity with a face. You know, you cannot. I mean, you will get. They'll kill you if you portray Muhammad Ali or even Allah. You know, he cannot. He doesn't have a face. He doesn't have skin color. So
right, but that's true for Judaism too. It's just not enforced. Because Moses goes to look upon God and his eyes get covered and all he can see is his back parts. Tell them I am that I am has sent you. You don't make any graven image of the thing, and so because it's not a thing. And so like that's and you'll see that cross-culturally all over the place, that recognition. But you're right in that Muslims take that to another level with they're like, don't represent Muhammad, who's even the messenger, because he himself calls himself the messenger. He's not the one, you know. Yeah. And so that gets interesting. Yeah.
Andy, have you seen Enter the Void? You know this movie we're talking about?
I have. It's been a long time, and I think I was fucking drunk as hell when I saw it. But yeah, I remember wanting to see it because of what it was about. I mean, immediately like, okay, I'm going to relate to this. And I think it did a really accurate portrayal, for the most part, of what it feels like on psychedelics. You know, they covered a lot of interesting points, I think. But it's been too long.
It feels like it's like some crazy programming when you're like that seizure shit where it's just all flashing like that. It's like I start to feel like I'm getting some kind of. I'm like, is this designed in this way? Like,
as a video projection artist, I was like really into the idea of like festivals taking drugs movie. I was like, that seems like it's going to be fun to watch, and I watched it. And I think that that's just the eye candy. The more I think about it, this movie's way deeper than that, and that's just the way they get you to watch it. They're like, it's pretty, but you know, really, it's about
turmoil of the soul. Basically.
death and Buddhism and life and
what I
rebirth
was
and
after.
reincarnation. Yeah, I felt like that's the thing that people need to wonder about in terms of life, because life is this. There's no point to it. It seems like
this movie's so inspired by Timothy Leary with the psychedelic experience about the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Is that not
Really?
like the basis for this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like directly.
Directly,
Like I
right?
don't think they were even hiding that.
No, that's like the basis of the
Isn't the
movie.
book on his table in the first scene?
Oh, is it?
Is it really? That makes sense.
Probably.
I mean,
Is it Timothy Leary's or is it just the Tibetan Book of the Dead?
Yeah, I think the Book of the Dead is.
I thought it was a psychedelic experience, but I might just be misremembering. But I thought there was a little plant somewhere in that opening.
It might
scene.
as well have been, because that's the freaking movie. You know,
Let's tie it into the flood for a second, because I know that you were thinking of that.
Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Andreas, I'm sorry.
California.
I was trying to get you to look this up real quick.
Which one?
Just real quick, but I put it in the message, in the Twitter, and this is one of the posts I made. I think is relevant to what we're just talking about. So, Jane Goodall, right?
Oh, interesting.
Jane Goodall, yeah, she was at World Economic Forum talking about the population need to be reduced to what it was 500 years ago. And you look up, you can look up the research. It's in the year 1500, it's around 500 million people, which is half a billion people that was stated.
Right.
Where have we seen that number before?
So,
nice.
So I at this point, I'm just like, what is more important for her, the chimps or the human survival?
Definitely chimps. I like chimps better than humans sometimes, although they freak me out. Humans, only the ones in Florida rip people's faces off. I mean, the chimps. Or wait, never mind.
Bath salt.
I'm just saying though that actually monkeys are dangerous, chimps are dangerous, gorillas are cool, but even still, I heard a bunch of weird stories about Coco and Robin Williams. Take off your shirt.
Have
Robin.
you seen Nope yet?
Coco? Really?
Yeah, Coco was like, they're like, what is Coco saying? And then they'd be like, Coco wants you to take off your shirt, and Robin Williams like, what do I do? And they're like, it's a 2-ton gorilla. You do what it says. And then Coco grabbed Robin Williams' chest. And he's like, okay. And there's a lot of stories about Coco doing that to other people too. Like Coco's like, take off your shirt, like to like men and women.
Coco, he was old gorilla. Trust me.
Coco was supposed to be the first Christian ape.
He was raised.
What's that?
Okay. Last thing I have to say about that.
Coco, she thought that the world was made by another woman. That's what I remember her. They asked, who made the world? Like, oh, another woman.
Okay,
a mother.
Andreas, so last thing I just want to say about Jane Goodall, that thing is like the chimp and the monolith, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit of that evolution.
2001 Kubrick, yeah. Connecting the Kubrick the chimp to the monolith.
No, they tried to make the ape into a Christian. That was like there's multiple documentaries on Coco, and one of them is horrifying because you have these people around the gorilla that are just like heavy duty Christian, and they're trying to teach them about Jesus. And it was like, what are they trying to prove here as Christians? Like that you can get a gorilla to like embrace a religion. And so there's a documentary from Barbet Schroeder, I believe is his name. He's the guy who did More and The Valley. So like the 2 Pink Floyd albums, Obscured by Clouds and More, are soundtracks to the films, not just like, sync, but like they're literal soundtracks to these 2 movies. And it's the same director who did the Coco documentary. But I felt like the Coco documentary was almost like oddly propaganda in a way from what was really happening with that gorilla, but maybe it just wasn't at the same point that Barbet Schroeder was there. That's possible, but I don't know. There's some weirdness there, man.
Well, you were saying what separates humans from all the other living creatures, right? And
right. Well,
in the beginning was the word, and you're teaching this ape words.
Right.
It's not too far of a stretch.
Okay, so I want to go back to the
soul in anyone who can use words, because that's that chance for enlightenment.
Don't you guys think that monolith in 2001 is a symbol of religion, a leap of faith, right? It's like the intelligence where you believe in a higher, or like what the Freemason said, you gotta believe in a higher creator in order to join us. It's like leaving that void of yeah, it's a leap of
It
faith.
fits in with the Star.
yeah.
We did a Star Trek thing yesterday, and I was thinking about this because the progenitors in
Hmm.
Star Trek are the ones who created everybody, and all the races in Star Trek look the same basically because they're all from one seeding race that created a bunch of orphan trains in space basically. And that the idea that everyone has, to follow these like protocols. I mean, it seems like they're saying that what you're saying, Eddie. They're trying to.
Its
make
origin
that.
and purpose is still a total mystery.
The idea
That's
of the
the problem
monolith
as
is
well.
that no,
In
but
the
that's
book-
the point. The monolith has an origin. It's
In the book-
objectively a fact that it's not natural, and so it clearly comes from something before it. It proves that there is an origin, right?
In the
Whatever it
book
is.
of 2001, right? When the apes go up to the monolith and it turns on, and it
Yeah.
flashes this black and white pattern, this zebra pattern on the monolith. And then in the movie, that doesn't happen, but you do have the horse that's painted to be a zebra. And this is going back to Philip K. Dick's zebra / Valis, theory. And it's technology, right? It's advanced technology. I just think that's what it is.
The zebra affecting
zebra-
And
cameras.
if you look at that Barbie trailer that dropped that has the satire, the spoof of 2001, when they reveal Barbie in place of the monolith, what is she wearing?
I don't remember.
A zebra pattern bikini.
Oh,
Do you know what
that's right.
do you know what
Yeah.
It's
in
binary,
video-
binary
in-
pattern, binary.
in video in the 60s, in 50s even, it was really common to have a thing that would tell you if the light was blowing out, because if the light blew out on your camera, you'd get something called the zebra effect, where it was too bright, and so that you'd get this feedback, right? And so the zebra effect is an area where it's too bright to actually record.
Oh, interesting.
Well, then also the zebra is the hexagrams of the I Ching, right? All the hexagrams are zebra patterns, right?
Yeah, it's binary.
And that's
It's programming.
Ancient, and then you have the zebra pattern of the barcode. And so you have this organic technology, which is this mapping of time, right? And then you have this capitalist technology that builds space or builds tower. And we're just going through this transition because we're moving from this technological back to a more organic, archaic revival in this whole thing that's going on right now.
You've seen the ancient Kufic Arabic. This is how Arabic used to be written, and then this is a QR code today, right? So they would just draw it in a square. It's kind of nuts,
Yeah, that is kind of nuts. The whole thing.
I mean, how much
like
of it is it?
though.
Yeah, it's all synchronicity, I guess.
We're getting right back to reading it. I don't know the way it is.
Well, wasn't the zebra itself like a symbol of synchronicity for Philip K. Dick? What was the story there? Do you remember? What is that?
So Philip K. Dick was saying that there was this ever-present source of truth that would the Black Iron Prison was trying to, enslave and imprison people. But even within that Black Iron Prison, the truth could still emerge, but it camouflages itself in its environment. So you have to awake to be able to see your environment and pick up the information that you need to extract yourself from the Black Iron Prison. And it's the precursor to anamnesis, right? And then as his writings moved along, he kind of transformed zebra into Valis because it was more of I don't even know if I can really explain the zebra Valis flip, but yeah.
Explain Valis a bit, right? So they're driving around in a van, sucking on an alien, trying to get high. What's the deal with Valis?
Vast active living information system. It's basically he's basically envisioning the internet. You know what I mean? In Divine
Existence.
In Divine Invasion, the sequel to Valis, the powers that be have this system called Big Noodle, which is essentially a global internet system that they use to control information. So,
interesting. There used to be a whole thing around existence with I think it was around 2012 or something, where it's there's all these people online that were arguing that this movie is basically part of the subliminal gay agenda. And I was confused by it because I was like, dude, isn't this okay? So this is David Cronenberg, continuing on with the same kind of themes that were present in Naked Lunch, and so there's there's a
Ever seen Blood and Donuts, the best Cronenberg movie?
I think so. Yeah.
So good. He's just this decent Canadian vampire, you know, and he hangs out at this donut shop and he has to help out, and the town's kind of run down. It's like a bad part of Toronto. I like Cronenberg. Sorry.
Whatever.
Cronenberg-
No, it's just there's. And
I didn't get the gay part though.
Why are they going? Well, that was the thing. It was like all this like subliminal stuff. So they go through the movie and they got all these specific examples and stuff. I'm like, wow, they're really fixated on this. I think in the same way that those people getting the N-word from the machine elves, maybe they could reflect a little bit upon how they're approaching this media with this particular thing. It's like Vigilant Citizen sometimes feels that way to me, where I'm like, okay, now you guys seem like you're kind of into this actually. Like this is more than just like you're kind of infatuated with it in a way that makes me feel like maybe you know, you wish you were part of that if that's what's going on. You know what I mean?
Room 237 reminded me of that. They had some moments where I was like, dude, I don't know. I know Kubrick is a pervert, but I'm pretty sure you're more of a pervert right now.
Right. For seeing this thing where he's like, he's talking about in The Office how he's like, see, it's supposed to be his dick.
I'm like,
Clearly.
I mean,
and you're like, I don't know, man.
fair,
I'm not, and I like Jay Widener, you know, but like he kind of discredits himself at times.
Penises everywhere. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Vigilant Citizen, I stopped reading it for a while because it's so literal. I mean, it's just like, oh, here's a Masonic satanic symbol, and
talk about a narrative, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah, I got a thing I wanted to pull up. Did you guys see this? These doctors pushed masking COVID lockdowns on Twitter. Turns out they didn't exist, right? And I tried to figure
I saw this. Yeah, totally.
I mean, so the InfoWars had a thing on it, but Matthew Kupfer's from the San Francisco Standard, I was like checking out the article, and what he's saying is last month Dr. Robert Honeyman lost their sister to COVID, etc. And then there's a bunch of people who's to blame. This reminds me of the oil spill where all the Shell Oil Company guys they weren't alive anymore on the board, so there's no oversight and liability board because they were all dead and didn't exist. Or they were like I think this is the two fake doctors whose accounts urged extreme caution from COVID-19 were part of a network of at least 4 fake accounts that touted their ties to the LGBTQ community, vocally advocated for mask wearing and social distancing, and dished out criticism to those they felt were not taking the pandemic seriously. Stock photos used as Dr. Robert Honeyman and Dr. Patrick C. Honeyman. These are these stock photos, right? And so, yeah, the Honeymans could not be reached for comment as they do not exist, right? And so this is the beginning of what's going to start pushing out more and more of
oh, dude. You know what it's going to be like in 3-4 years or whatever with our ability to account for shit. You know, like this is like they pulled off a heist basically on the public globally. Like it was like a literal global conspiracy taking advantage opportunity like what do you call that? Opportunistic. Thank you. Derp. Yeah. So it's like basically, in other words, like this thing is happening one way or the other. Even if you want to say lab, whatever the hell, shit's planned, not planned, it doesn't matter. Like in this particular level, there'll be an accounting for all of that. And
they're not real people. So like the amnesty thing. But
in the first place, that's what went on. Those types of practices. How did they have all those commercials exactly the same? Every COVID commercial was the same. If you go to YouTube and look up every COVID commercial was exactly the same. It's so true. The somber piano music, the same tone, the same catchphrases, the slight nuances. It's like, how is this not coordinated? And
you look at the Clearwater broadcast, or is that what it's called? All the newscasters were all saying the same. They have the same.
That stuff too. Yeah.
Millions of stations around.
I wish
everything's scripted perfectly, and nobody can distinguish it.
Someone tried to make an excuse about that, saying, "Well, you know, certain affiliates will probably say the same script." Like,
have you? I was about to say, have you heard of the Dyson vacuum sponsorship debacle? The great sponsorship debacle of 2018. Yeah, no, this was a big deal. So what went down was they got a bunch of these YouTubers and they told them all to review the Dyson vacuum on the same freaking day. They all came out, like all these videos of people just using the Dyson vacuum, and everyone's following everybody. And they're like, "Hey, this person I like to follow this time." Everyone was flooded with Dyson vacuums watching from anybody in the world, and they all said the same thing about the damn vacuum because they all had to say certain things about the vacuum, and it was like this jarring they live moment. Obey, Dyson vacuum, and you're like, no, and you go to the next video. Dyson vacuum is making my life better, and you're like, help me. So
have you guys ever looked at a conspiracy? I mean, I listened to like maybe like 2-3 dozens of podcasts, right? And they all have the same sponsorship. They all have the same enlargement pills.
Absolutely.
They have the same. It's like this is the same.
Which reminds me, if you're looking for better dick pills, the bills that your pills pay. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have any of those yet.
So what was the thing with when Facebook started? The day that and year that Facebook was launched was the day that DARPA dropped their profiling program thing. You know about that? What was it called?
It was like night and then day. Boom. One was
right,
down
but there was a name for that. Yeah, what is the DARPA project called? I can't remember.
Oh God, LifeLog.
Yeah, that's it. That is it. Yeah, LifeLog. Yeah. So it's like, what are the chances the day and year they drop it? That's
I saw
crazy.
somebody go completely silent, David, when you mentioned that on Twitter. And I was going back to it hours later, seeing if they responded to you, but no, they just kind of faded into the bushes.
No, because that one checks out.
The scary thing about DARPA, it's not just Skynet, but it is where internet came from. I mean, it's not from CERN. I mean, it really is from DARPA. From DARPA.
Yeah, Al Gore got really quiet when people were like, "Do you want to explain how you invented the internet?" He's like, "No." But that was pretty good because he's like, "I just did, all right, just deal with it." And in a weird way, he kind of did because he took he's a guy who likes to go. He's a vampire or a werewolf or something, but he loves to be in nuclear submarines. And then he will connect DARPA Sage network, and he made it possible for the '80s program for CERN to use it, and that's what led to the ARPANET. So yeah, in a lot of ways, Al Gore actually invented, or rather publicized, made it possible to connect these military super networks or mega networks into an inner network. Kind of weird.
No, that video that was titled is YouTube video titled "The Truth About Facebook," and it was I just saw the other day. It's 13 years old. And as far as I know, this has never been debunked. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. Yeah, but I don't think you deal with copyright stuff for this, but yeah, but it basically shows the funding for Facebook and where the incentive came from, and it goes.
I love InQtel had a Q in it, see, because everyone loves the Q,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let Q there.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, no, this is a great, important video that's as far as I know, it's never been debunked. You can just see that the people basically launching Facebook are all just up in intelligence agency things. It's crazy.
Yeah, Peter Andreas Thiel, who I love, was also a major investor. I mean, some pretty interesting stuff. The thing is, though, you look at ARPANET and you look at what the Facebook network became, and I don't think it's the scary part to me isn't so much that they record everything, because they've clearly been doing that since the 50s or something, right? They've been every phone call recorded, which is why dial-up was so important, because we already have the infrastructure to record it. So we'll just record their phone calls. We'll have digital access tapes. We'll upload that to a major data storage. It'll be easier until we have access to ARPANET. At this point, though, my concern is the AI and how they have your choices and your GPS tracking and everything to create a pretty decent simulatory universe. And there's a lot of problems with that, because I saw this X-Files episode, season 11, where I don't know, that's always a scary way to start a thing, but they do this thing where they find out one of the characters has been dead for 10 years, is living in a simulation, and he's being forced to work all the time. He lives in this stupid little VR Sims neighborhood. And
has he been eating nothing but edible panties for so many years?
I mean, it's just digital. So digital panties. Okay. Digitally, I don't know if they're edible, but they're digital
calories.
So, it sounds like the story of Loeb. Does it sound like?
If they start taking people and they start making ghosts, because they have your choices over decades. It's not just a recording of you. It's how you change over time. They can create people that they don't have to pay to work. And I think that's the most. It's Occam's razor.
I was misunderstanding. I thought you were talking about somebody in a basement, with AI, VR glasses on, and just not realizing that he's okay.
No. I think that we're gonna get to the point where it's easier to kill somebody and digitally, like the transporter thing, where you shoot 300 or 6 gigajoules or something of energy into a person, and you make a complete recording of their synapses pattern, and you have all their memories. You could do something like that.
That was supposed to be what happened in Ready Player One, right? So like with the main guy who's like the Steve Jobs type character, that at the end they kind of indicate that he's basically like, you know, that they had really regenerated him. Like it's not like it's like a whole like
he's immortalized.
Let me ask, what would be the motive for recreating all of us for them? Like wouldn't getting rid of the personalities and the humans and just having machines walking around so they can just live their Playboy lives by themselves or something? Like I'm just looking at the scale of this. Like what is the purpose of recreating us, us individuals that give them so much trouble?
If the thing is, you'll be able to control the actions, you'll be able to delete the kinds of moves. It's like the Sims game, you know.
So they want to be sim controllers, okay.
But then they're able. But the thing is, the Sims are autonomous now. I was playing it the other day, and it's amazing. So what they're doing is they're taking people and they're going to make them work in a machine, doing all the programming and thinking and things that need to be done for orchestration of this society. The same way that Star Trek, the ship is alive, right? Because there's actually some sort of a mind that's been put into the ship. So this is the future, is that some of this technology will have certain amounts of sentience because it'll be at least emulating the sentience that humans had. And we're bridging the gap really quickly in substrate independence. People aren't aware of how corporations are going to use this because they're going to say, well, this thing isn't alive. So it's going to be, we can do whatever we want with it. And so digital slavery of AI, I think this is going to, at first people are like, well, we don't care because it's AI, but AI will be based on you, right? It's going to believe it's a person because that'll be a lot easier, like the Matrix.
Okay. You know what?
So I was trying to figure that out.
Dylan Lawhorn says Lime Matrix 4. Why does he say that, Bill?
I have no idea.
Why does he say that? So right before this call, I was watching, Bill wanted to show me freaking Matrix 4 with Radiohead Amnesia.
Kid Amnesia. It's the two albums put together on one continuous album.
Right. So, but what's funny is I was like, this girl falls in water, and I thought it said soaking, and I was like, no, he says sucking. And then Bill said, yeah, he says sucking a lemon. And so somebody wrote Lime Matrix 4, Dylan Lawhorn, apparently, for some reason in the comments. And I was just like, why is he saying that? That's crazy. Okay, whatever. Yeah. So, but it was great because this movie, like most of the movie, apparently, is freaking Keanu Reeves remembering. So like when I watched it, it was one of the things that annoyed me. And one of the things I disliked about Trainspotting 2 actually was like I don't need I was like, I don't need a flashback, man. Yeah. Like I get it. But in the sync pairing, it's fucking great because they can shut up because the dialogue is fucking shite in Matrix 4 for the most part.
Sitting in a coffee shop, not moving.
Sorry.
I mean, they should at least be on a airport escalator so that they're moving.
But like the vibe of Radiohead with those albums was just like really cool. But then it's also like it's called Amnesia, their new album. So it's like, or newer, whatever, their album. And but it's like the whole thing, I'm like, that's the point of the freaking deal, is like he's trying to remember the whole time. They keep using it as an excuse to give flashbacks to this and that, you know. So you're literally like watching parts of the original Matrix in Matrix 4 a lot for some reason. But it really worked well with the sync for Amnesia. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, so the Matrix is interesting because it's the same idea. They've got a bunch of people in the system, but they're more reliable to do what they want them to do. And you can get people to work 24 hours a day without sleep because they're a digital personality. They're already using AI to program malware, viruses. AI is being used to upgrade drivers for video cards. Pretty soon, I just saw Minecraft hyper realistic mod. They're able to. I mean, so with AI and stuff to make it look like you're real. I mean, I've seen, this isn't even the stuff I've seen. Stuff that looks like literally like you're playing the newest games can go over the, there you go, like this kind of thing where all of a sudden it's like perfect. And that's not even it. I've seen better. No, point is AI and all this stuff, they can get it to work harder if it believes it's a person. That's what they're realizing. And they've done this so long because they've been programming.
Reminds me of The Island. The Ewan McGregor Scarlett Johansson movie, the way they portrayed AI, and that sounds a lot like what we're talking about here. Do you guys remember that movie?
I forget how the AI was portrayed. I mean,
Just very, very human, unknowing, all kind of boxed in this one factory, just all kind of living out social lives together, very
but they're clones.
unsuspecting. Yeah, it was really intense. And their
Right, yeah, that's totally
breakdowns over it, their emotional responses and everything.
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing to AI is they're training AI to have emotional responses because they know how to hypnotize and traumatize people, using they can do that to AI.
Right.
Even
more so.
And look up I just sent you a link in the message, and there was since you mentioned Minecraft, there was an article that just came out saying, it checked the Twitter messages. So it's basically kind of like the Ready Player One, the last the golden egg, basically the last poem that Microsoft doesn't own because this guy, the writer of the poem, he never sold his rights to Bill Gates. So, Microsoft bought Minecraft, right?
Yeah, this has been a real tragedy because I've been using the PlayStation and Brittany's kid. We were trying to set them up with the mods they bought, and all of a sudden they won't download anymore onto the PlayStation because Sony owns that. And it's like, what are you doing, Minecraft? Evil.
My kid's still playing on the Xbox. But this interesting article, it was basically, it almost feels like there's some kind of a. I'm trying to take a crack at it, but it's very.
This is always the case. People end up selling to Disney or Microsoft, and they don't like doing it. But I think $3 billion. I mean, dang, what are you gonna do? Not buy an island? That'd be crazy.
On the topic of video games, I put a link in the StreamYard chat. Have you guys heard of Earth 2?
No, what's this?
Yeah, yes.
Dude, it's not the movie from the 90s. It is, or the TV show. This is like a full, supposedly it's going to be a video game, but there's a lot of, streamers out there that think it's, never going to be what it claims to be. But it's insane. It's supposed to be a copy of Earth itself. And the creepy part is how this game is funding itself is fucking selling property on this planet right now.
Wow.
It's such a fucking scheme in regards to video games, of course, but it just feels a lot creepier than that.
Well, you look at Metaverse, right? They're trying to sell buy $1 million mansion in Metaverse. I'm like, why would I want to?
But look at the fidelity in this compared to Meta. And why would we even a lot of people talk about that, like Meta? Why would we even bother? It looks, barely better than fucking Virtual Boy. What's the, you know what I mean?
It's not about graphics though with Meta.
Okay.
No, I hear you. They've done that to us.
Hear me out on this. The AI is exponentially. I mean, even Peterson was talking about it yesterday. I'm not a big fan of this, but he was all in awe about AI writing, programming. It's going to take over everything, all the jobs and automation, which is happening.
Yeah.
But ultimately, is that what do all these people do with all the jobs being taken over by AI? Where is the consumer base to feed this?
Well, we're talking about 500,000 people, so.
Dude, if you zoom out far enough, they all become Betamax.
Yeah.
In other words, there's always something that just goes down and something else comes up, and so that's one. And then the way it comes up will be some further kind of contrived version of it. So it's we tend to get the good thing first, and then it sort of goes through stages and deteriorates into something else. And that's what concerns me about digital currency, because I'd like to be on board and excited about all the cryptocurrency and all this shit. But the problem is that I see it as where is this going ultimately, and who will suck this up in what way? You know what I mean?
And what happens after the EMP?
Even if you look at a new IRS, if they could go to abolish it and tax a general consumption tax, just the name of that, wait a second, if money doesn't have any worth anymore, it has none of our blood and sweat anymore, why are you still taxing it and call it consumption tax? It's like humans are no longer, the physical humans are no longer contributing to this the cycle of economy, what I'm saying? And they're trying to churn us into they're
something useful.
Microchip, but trying to the Neuralink is coming up. Elon Musk said that he's going to push it this year. He wants to jab everybody with a Neuralink and jack everybody in. What good is that? Sitting there with our chips.
What I'm saying is totally fallacious. So like on the level that if we're for real, because if we're discussing slippery slope, like slippery slope is technically a fallacy. I can't prove a slippery slope no more than I can prove irony. If I see two things are ironic, I can't prove it. So, but at the same time, there's also the fallacy that just because something's a fallacy doesn't necessitate that it's not true. And that's the thing about, because it's not true for all fallacies, but it is true for slippery slope. And it can be true for other things as well. It depends, because because you say, you see what I'm saying? So like, it's not an ultimate truth that this will lead to this. It's my concern, and I'll put it into that context if I'm going to talk about it. Because I'm not going to get on a soapbox and say everybody stay away from digital currency because this is what they're trying to do. Get prepared for your digital ID and everything else that comes with that. But
I'm not even
Logan's
going to go
Run,
down the definition of a soul, but if you look at a soul, it really is part of our conscious effort to survive, to put our creation, trying to earn money for a living, to feed our families, and all of this is like, this is a soul, And
was it last week that people were asking to see my soul, and then Andreas showed them his too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Jason Page. I think they wanted to see. Yeah. Jason didn't show his soul.
Think about the hero's journey, right? When you commit to an artistic project the size of a movie, let's say like 2001, or let's just go into the digital age, like something like Avatar, how many people do they hire to do all the computer animation on that film? It's hundreds, right? Because the budget for that
300 to 3,000 to 1,000, probably 300, probably.
All right. What if you could reduce that staff down to 3 people and the open AI to do all your digital effects for your movies?
So what I realized is, like, you look at George Lucas and why he had such a big team of people eventually, and it's because he was intimidated by having unique assets. And even though he liked the people that made puppets and stuff, like, that wasn't what he was trying to make the movie like. So the thing is, the more levels of proxy you have between the product and it being done, it's very Ford managerial theory. You just remove people. If someone comes in and he's an essential worker, you fire him and you replace him with 5 other people. This is just what you do, because that way you don't have an essential key piece. You have a system that is impenetrable and won't break, right? So I think that's, even when they do have AI helping people make that, you're going to just have people more and more afraid of making shows, because you're going to have like one guy making South Park again. And they hate that. They hate the idea of right before the show comes out, it's ready, and they don't have any say in it,
Mm-hmm. Word.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about AI, is that AI pisses off the status quo more than the worker. I mean, the worker talks about it taking their jobs, but really, isn't it the status quo talking about taking the workers' jobs on the TV? And they're saying, oh man, if the AI takes over the jobs, but what jobs are they going to take over? Administration and crap like that aren't very essential.
Dude, for colleges, you got to write a report. Okay, let me just program the components of the report into this AI, let it feed it out. I can go back over that and just like make some adjustments here and there to personalize it in whatever way I want to. And then here you go. And you just fucking, you cut out the work.
Meanwhile, yesterday on Base Day,
trying to figure out if it's AI or human written. It's just like the beginning of Blade Runner. Here we are.
Right. Yeah, totally.
But
that's true.
A bot that will be able to tell the difference,
But yesterday on Base AF, they were talking about this kid the teacher's got a cat litter box for the kid to urinate in the middle of the classroom, because the kid identifies as a cat. And so schools aren't teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic anymore. They're teaching not how to grow up and be a person, but how to be a cat or an animal, right? And so this is the other thing. We're figuring out where people can fit, and I think it's going to be pets that are amusing is what people are starting to realize, because they're like, I don't even think I could be a woman. I think I could just be.
I don't think that's going to make it into the curriculum though, just because some teacher decides to be a freaking loon or whatever.
Let's hope not.
A lot of really fucked up things that weren't on the curriculum that have been entering into public schools. Like, did you hear about that project for the kids at home that they were faced with a scenario where they were, in dire straits in the future and had to make a baby in order to eat it? and they had to like talk about the preparation and how they would do it and everything. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think the teacher was fired. Like, I'm not saying the school was like,
Right.
yeah, this is what we believe, but still,
Right.
it's just.
I mean,
seeped in.
it's weird because it's like I want edgy teachers. Don't get me wrong. Like I like it when my teacher shows me
Well,
like
my
I
history
want
teacher was
seriously.
like
If my teacher shows me a gnarly book in 5th grade, like 1984 Animal Farm, I'm a better kid for it. So I want
yeah.
that kind of thing to exist. I want the precedent for it to be possible for like the cool weird stuff like Brave New World to be introduced to elementary school kids.
Wait, did you go to Aptos or SoCal?
I went
Oh,
to Mountain School Elementary and
Oh, okay.
Spring Hill and Good Shepherd, and every year I actually went to a different school. Fun fact, most
You
of my
went to
life.
Good Shepherd? Oh my God.
Yeah. They didn't like
Wow.
me there because I was always like, why do you have to cross with the right hand instead of the left hand? I'm left-handed. Why would God make left-handed people? And they're like, you know what? Too much work.
Okay. Yeah, that's funny. But there was a like shit is so different. Like I can't imagine but okay, so I had a teacher who was a wrestler. So his name was Mr. Layton. He taught wood shop. He taught like working on vehicles, different things. And I had a friend, Nigel West, who used to tackle him in the middle of class, and like they would wrestle. And the thing was, is if you go to tackle Mr. Layton, he's gonna fight back. And so like he knew how to put him in a position where he couldn't say shit about him doing it, because when it
Nice.
came down to it, he had him pinned by the end of it. So you pinned the kid, he was just instinctually a wrestler. So, and my friend was like a big guy, and he was just like, and he would just always take on Mr. Layton. It must have happened freaking 10 to 15 times in the course of the school year. I witnessed this kid just like in the middle of class, just like run at him. And then he just like put him down. And it was like, okay, well, and it was just this thing. But it's like, I don't know, I could come up
You
with
can't
some
do
more
that
examples.
anymore, but that would have saved,
but
that
it's
kid's
just
gonna
like,
go to jail now because he doesn't have that teacher, you know?
right, but like in this amount of time, it's like things have just shifted. Oh my God, I went to the Corliss Market the other day down the street from my house, and I got my neighbor was there, and he was talking about how the cost of cigarettes when he was young, and he was like, we used to pay, I think you know what he said, he's like, we used to pay 15 cents for a pack of Camels or whatever the fuck.
Right.
And I was like, dude, my dad used to send me down here to pick up beer for him when I was like, I don't know, 12, 13 years old, and they'd get a phone call that, hey, our son's going to come in there and he's going to get some beer and he's going to bring it back to, he's going to bring it back to me. My dad would call up the market and be like, my son's just walking a block away to go pick up some beer for me. And they would be like, okay, cool. And I said that. And then like, I realized that like the guy who I was talking to was totally down. Like he totally got it. He was like, oh, of course, those weren't the good old days. And the person behind the counter was like, that is wrong. Like that is not like we would do that. And I'm like, oh, I'm talking like 91 or something, I mean, like, I don't know, man.
Private school.
Yeah. I'm like, but yeah, a lot has changed, man.
Yeah, you can't get away with things, and that's the other thing. I think the world's designed around their thinking. Well, people will get accountability for their actions. At least the main populace will, maybe not like the elite still, and so they kind of have a system that they think they control. And I think that the problem with that is that it keeps us from living the lives that we're destined to live. They're trying to take away any of the mobility that we used to have.
Right. It might also be partly just where I live. Like it's got kind of like a country attitude and vibe,
True.
Even though it's in California. Corliss is all orchards, so I'm just surrounded by orchards, and it's all. Anyway, whatever.
I don't know. I mean, we were looking at the Fauci files. I wanted to look at the facial recognition thing. A facial recognition tool led to a mistaken arrest. Lawyers say this person went to Randall Reed, 28, jailed in late November in Georgia because facial recognition software found him in Louisiana. Of course, he'd never been to Louisiana. And it's been kind of shown that facial recognition software has a problem with persons of color, and it kind of mixes them up sometimes. Didn't matter. They arrested him anyway, and he was serving like a month or something like that until they figured out what was really going on. I think they just finally, when was this supposed to have happened? November 27th, released December 1st, right? So it took a while, and they recognized that he'd never been there. But this is starting to happen. What do you think about facial recognition being used to arrest people?
That shit happens anyway. People will on a description will do the same thing. So I think the hope would be that facial recognition software, for the hope for law enforcement would be that this would just apply. But like, I mean, I've been held at gunpoint by a police officer over by the 76 station near Dominican. I got pulled over many years back. I got pulled over and the cop had a gun out and he was like, "Step out of the vehicle with your hands up," going crazy. A gas station had been robbed right down the street, and they said black truck, and I was driving a black Ranger, and that was enough for him to just like, and and that guy was so like, he was so scared afterwards when he realized that I wasn't the person he was looking for, because he had like he took out his gun and scaring the shit out of me.
What made him recognize that you weren't the criminal?
He was like talking back and forth with people giving my license plate or whatever the hell what was going on.
So that's kind of nice. Technology is being used. That's the thing. Maybe the fact that they had mobile records of the fact his phone, probably as Google proved, he'd never brought that phone to Louisiana, and he'd had that time his phone showed where he was in Georgia or something. So I can see that being useful, because cops aren't supposed to investigate. They're supposed to just arrest after a crime.
If you look at the recent case of the people who were killed in their sleep in, I don't know, was it Idaho or Oregon? Relatively recent incident, and the person who they arrested, how did they figure it out? I forget. There's like a long list of reasons why they've established that this is in all likelihood the person that did it, and it does involve DNA. But it's like their phone, that they had their phone there. They know that their phone was in the space. I don't know. It's like,
You know what? I was just reading another article saying China, they're trying to develop drones that never need to land. It'll be constantly recharged in midair. And I just look at it, just Minority Report. There's going to be like thousands of these little drones that are flying all around with facial recognition.
I worked on a project like this, and I felt so.
The street cameras are no longer workable because it's too stationary and too low resolution. And these will get the close-ups, they track everybody all over the place.
I had this project in school called the ELF, and it was the Electronic Learning Friends, and the system was basically you have drones, and then you'd have these solar-powered like photovoltaic flowers or trees, whatever, like bushes that would pick up energy. And then the drones would go and they would drop down their battery, and they'd pick up another battery from the charging, like pollination, basically, of the flowers. And I was building this whole thing. And then and then I saw the DARPA grant was in order to create drones that didn't have to land, in order that they could use them for, military purposes. And I got like really freaked out, because of course that's what all of this tech is being used for. But now you're seeing it in China, and like you've seen the videos of people walking around the street screaming because they were like, "I can't eat. I'm not supposed to be outside right now. What are you going to do about it?" Because the police aren't even on the streets; they just have drones that are filming them, and then they just like lock their bank accounts, lock them in their house, and don't let them out anymore.
Yeah, so China knows that they don't have enough police force to fight back, and this is a perfect solution. Just all right, you don't want to take orders. Okay, we're going to track your credits, and basically just make you render you completely useless. You can't do any shopping at all. You're going to wind up in this prison somewhere.
That they fly forever. You know what that reminds me of is when Kubrick was showing somebody his computer room. It's like early days, like he was always ahead of the game with that stuff or whatever, supposedly. And the guy says, "Don't you want to turn those off?" as they're leaving the room. And he turned around and he smiled and he was like, "They like to stay on." And it's like that, like they like that, and that's true for analog equipment in general too. Like if you're using analog music equipment or whatever, like it needs that. But it's also true, like that's the implication there is you're like, well, to what end if the thing wants to stay on? Because we relate to appliances like it's so like we have the ability to turn this off, turn this on. Oh, my computer's fouling up. Oh, cold boot. But it's like, what if it gets to the point where you can't turn it off, and it's a drone,
I'm coming, man. I know, Bill, you wanted to talk about the flood. There was a thought you had on the flood, right?
It's kind of faded away, but do you guys know the Book of Enoch?
Yeah.
And so John Dee and Edward Kelly with the Enochian tablets. The Enochian was the original language. Right, and
according to John Dee,
yeah.
But hey, it's something to go on.
What this AI is doing, it's running on like an Enochian language. It's a foundational language. that we've captured. It's not in a book. It's in, I don't know, in the air or something. It seems to relate. But the reason why I bring up the book of Enoch is that in Islam, the prophet Idris is connected with Enoch and Hermes, Trismegistus, and Thoth, right? So these are all the gods of language. And Idris is known as the faceless one, right? Along with Muhammad, as you mentioned earlier.
I was about to say in Islam to be the faceless one, if that's like even your name, I mean, like, okay,
So
must be even more faceless.
When Kanye West or Ye was on that big interview where he went completely out of the box with Alex Jones, he was faceless.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right. Oh,
Idris
wow. Oh my God. You're making
Idris
sense
was-
of that?
So Idris was born in Iraq, in Babylon, right? Kanye was born in Chirac, the really shitty part of Chicago. But the prophet that follows Idris in Islam is Nuh, or N-U-H. Do you know who that is?
Enlighten us.
That's Noah.
Oh.
So all this
That's my son's name.
So I'm tracking this connection between Kanye and the faceless one and Idris, and the next prophet in line is Noah, right? And because Noah builds the ark, and this storm in California is Ark 2.0, and all that damage you showed by the cement boat. So it just sort of feels like in this cyclical time wave that this book of Enoch, this angelic language, this original language was in this period right before the flood. And the flood clears out everything, all the defiled people, and we begin again. It kind of feels like with this technology and this flood thing that's going on, that's what we're headed for.
Oh, interesting.
Did
you guys watch that movie?
We're about to enter the Great Reset, which is the flood.
Dude, this movie, the Russell Crowe Noah movie, was the weirdest Noah thing, the weirdest biblical movie I think I've ever seen. Right? Because
he took from Apocrypha too, and so and various like Kabbalistic interpretations or whatever. But he just went all out to just be like story of Noah, not just according to the Torah, but according to every other take. An explanation. And so like
the Babylonian.
Right. So this strange attracts with Transformers. So in Transformers you have Megatron, who we all know is Metatron, and you have the Allspark is like this cube thing. And so you'll notice that in this film that in Noah they do the tefillin and they use like a snake skin rather than the leather. And then this actually is a sync with 9 Inch Nails' Year Zero. So Year Zero was after the flood where he lost his recording studio, along with the pig door, the door that said pig on it from Polanski's home or whatever. But anyway, so Year Zero, because he was starting from scratch after he lost everything to a flood. So that actually syncs with Noah and the Transformers movie with Shia LaBeouf.
When you say Noah hide, right? Noah hide as in the skin, right? I mean, Noah hide laws,
right?
I'm just wondering about the etymological connection.
Noahidism is the monotheistic Jewish religious movement based on the 7 laws of Noah, as opposed to the 10 commandments, and their traditional interpretations with Orthodox Judaism. According to the Jewish laws, non-Jews, goyim, are not obligated to convert to Judaism, but they are required to observe the 7 laws of Noah to be assured a place in the world to come, Olam Haba, the final reward of the righteous. That rainbow, of course, is that symbol that if your pride gets before you following the rules of God again, you'll be killed not by a flood this time, but by fire. That's what the rainbow symbol, it's the covenant, that next time it'll be way worse.
It's a covenant.
Covenant. Sorry.
Yeah. But no, solid controversial point you got there regarding something as simple as the rainbow after the flood.
Right. Yeah.
Technicolor rainbow.
It's interesting. Yeah. So the symbol is to not be prideful, or there will be a fiery apocalypse. That's the symbol that they got. Interesting. But okay, so Noahide, though, is important because it doesn't have the first 3 rules. What are the 7 rules opposed to the 10 commandments? Basically, you don't have to have their God before your other gods and all that other stuff, but you still have to abide by the rules. I think you have to keep kosher, etc.
Is this because Noah got all naked after the flood in the tent with his son or whatever it was?
All right, so here's the deal. You don't have to have their God, but you can't worship idols of your God. And you do not curse God and do not murder. Do not commit adultery or sexual morality. Do not steal. Do not eat flesh torn from a living animal. Establish courts of justice. In other words, if you're not part of our system, you got to at least follow these rules, right?
It sounds like the Essenes, actually.
Yeah. And so the common law and the Commonwealth and the United Nations and this idea of like the Columbus Day happened on Cyrus, was it Columbus Day? If you do this right, is October 12th. If you do October 12th in history, and you
that's actually Aleister Crowley's birthday.
First thing on Wikipedia, the army of Cyrus the Great of Persia take Babylon, ending the Babylonian Empire. This is why Columbus Day happens on the day it does, because Cyrus the Great of Persia introduces the cylinder of Cyrus, which introduces human rights, right?
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
So can't check Aleister Crowley's birthday? It is the 12th, isn't
it? Is it really?
That'd be hilarious. So.
Born December 1st. Okay. December
really?
1st. Yeah. It says here. October 12th. No, he died then. Interesting. October 12th. Dude. So he's born on Columbus Day and on Cyrus conquering Persia Day. Not bad. Pretty interesting. I don't know.
Well connected.
Yeah. I don't know. The idea of the Noah movie was weird because he's being whispered to by this kind of Gnostic force and told that this is an impending reset that's coming and he has to prepare for it. And I don't know. I have to reanalyze it again because it was just so freaking.
Yeah, it's all about the elementals, man. The fallen ones or whatever. That's the thing. And that's also the Paramount logo somehow. What is the thing? The Paramount logo relates to the Book of Enoch, right?
Yes, the amount of stars that were the same amount of fallen angels
above Mount Hermon. So actually. Yeah, and so that came up yesterday because we were talking about Star Trek, right? So that's interesting.
Yeah.
I missed a feature about that.
I don't know if I was there for that part of it.
Isn't the Enoch really the fallen angels? The Enoch, right?
I thought the Enoch. You're talking about some other thing. The Enoch, whatever. Enoch is a prophet. Enoch is a prophet who doesn't die, right?
Right. We're not talking about the Nephilim. We're not talking about and we're not getting into Zechariah Sitchin territory by talking about this either.
So Enoch was so cool with God. God liked him so much he doesn't have to die, and he goes to heaven on a cloud, walking with. He used to walk on the beach with God a lot, and then finally his son is left there to die eventually, even though Enoch gets to live forever, which is
right. He's really the only ascended person in the Bible other than Jesus, or is there one other one? I forget.
Does Jesus really?
Living will never die, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's transfiguration.
I'm trying to connect this. Is that the Enochian letters, right? That we see that John Dee and all these people use. Yeah. It looks pretty similar to the letters that was found in Roswell. The band of letters that came with the crash. If you look it up, it looks very similar. So I kept thinking about the fallen angels because the gray aliens were kind of been called the demons or the fallen angels themselves.
What are the Roswell letters? I don't know.
What is it?
It's like a strip of metal that had all these letters on it. But is that it? No, that's not the one. I think that might be a hand copy, but. I don't know. Maybe we should do a side-by-side comparison.
The Roswell symbols. Maybe I should go to search on normal.
There's also that one Enochian tablet for clouds that when you look at the letters, it spells NASA.
The Roswell I-beam, it's called. Allegedly found in 47 with some inscripted symbols. Here we go. Let's look at it. Kind of interesting. All right.
Okay.
It looks like
you can get a 3D printable. I'm gonna have to print one and look at it.
So what you're saying, Eddie, is that this strip of symbols reminds you of the Enochian letters?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
You know that you probably all know this, but that those letters work in a particular way in the geometrical formations that he had on wax to fit with a crystal that went in the center, so that when you look through the crystal, the shape of the letters is manipulated by the crystal and you get different messages through that or another level of messages or whatever than you receive from the letters themselves. So that's part of his whole scrolling thing where he had the was it that
it was an
Obsidian
analog
mirror.
internet. If you look at the description,
Obsidian, right?
if you look at the description of how to build that scrying table that he used, like there is so much complexity underneath the table. Like it's essentially an analog computer is what they built. And what they're using it is to get access to the internet of God. I mean, when you really, there's a great book by Jason Louv on John Dee where he breaks it down brilliantly. And you can't help draw the connection. And, you know, Edward Kelly, you know, he would scry it through the crystal and take the language backwards because it was too dangerous to read it forwards. And then they would have to retranslate it. But it just seems that this open AI that they've developed basically gives everybody access to this, the power of language, the power of what they were tapping into.
You know, Bill, it's kind of like we talk about this every week now. It's like Loeb, you know, the demonic looking woman that comes out.
Yeah, what's she up to this week? We should look into the news if there's a new.
The reverse prompt of Marlon Brando's name is reversed. Now that you're kind of reminding that, why is it dangerous to read it?
Well, it's interesting because Thomas was talking about a different Paranoid American saying that by charging the sigil more, by creating pictures of it, generating them and putting them online and labeling them Loeb, that AI is looking up pictures of Loeb and it's going to cause a feedback loop, which empowers the synthesis process. It'll accelerate the growth of Loeb.
Yeah. So that's right, Bill. I mean, that seemed to that seemed to imply, you know, what you've been talking about.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
Bog-mindling.
Hey,
guys, we're 2 hours deep. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, David.
Okay. I got you though. I just put something in the Twitter message stuff. It's like 2 photos that I took from if you can get into that easily. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, one second, I can do it.
But the John Dee's stuff in this what museum was this? The British Museum.
Yeah.
It's in a room with just like so much stuff everywhere, like upstairs too. And they don't tell you where anything is. It just, you can look up what's in the room. And so like it took forever to find these 2 images. There's this one and there's the next one. But this is actually on wax, and this was John Dee's actual, like, you know, what the tablet that he used to set the crystal on, apparently. So there's like a stand that
I don't think the second one's sent. I only have the first one here.
Oh, really?
And that black thing in the back, that's the obsidian mirror.
It
That's
says try again.
That's the Aztec mirror.
Okay.
It was stolen from the Aztec high priest.
Wait, where? Right over here, or the black?
The black
obsidian
mirror, yeah.
Nice. I have an obsidian mirror from Mexico. I have 2 actually. I think they're very useful. I appreciate them. But yeah, I don't know. Did the other thing send, or is it a picture or is it a link?
I'm trying now. Yeah, it says it did.
If it's if it says HTTP, remove the S from HTTPS. I found that sometimes Twitter doesn't let you send a secure HTTP.
Oh,
Twitter's weird. Twitter's very weird. Twitter, you need to work on that. Elon, fix it. I don't know. I like looking at this.
Whatever. I give up. It seemed like it was the same as the other one, so it should have worked. But oh, well.
It is what it is. I like this. Watching this go. This is terrifying. I'm gonna go to the Deep Share podcast because Andy, I appreciate you. You're wonderful.
I appreciate you.
You're one of my favorite people. Guys, go to thedeepshare.com. Thedeepshare.com is amazing, and it's filled with amazing episodes of amazing content.
YouTube as well. Hit that YouTube.
Is there is there a button right there that'll take me there?
Not there. Probably no.
Okay. Well, okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think that one.
I don't even bother with the website very much. I'm just on YouTube and social media for the most part, and obviously my podcast is on pretty much every podcast app, I'm sure. Yeah. But yeah, I've been on a hiatus for a while, as you guys know, but I'm coming back with new episodes next week, I believe. And yeah, I got some really killer interviews coming up, so I'm excited to release them.
Absolutely, guys. Make sure you get caught up because there's a lot of cool stuff here. Astral Sleep Paralysis with Vicky Joy Anderson's the last one, and there's a bunch of really cool stuff here. Check that out.
Sitting there since October. I've been taking a nice break.
In case anybody doesn't know, he has a family, and it was the holiday season. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. Yeah. Syncflix on the syncbook.com. Make sure you click on the Judy Garland thing. I'll do it again because it's so fast. Go down the page.
You can also do it from the top from videos.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go there, videos, and then scroll down.
Oh,
she's
easy.
there too. Anywhere. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, while you do that, take a stop by the Back to the Future 9/11 because that's pretty sweet. It's right there. It's available. Make sure you've seen that if you haven't. And also, I just saw the hindsight is 2020. But if you go to the Sync book and you watch the Sync flicks, there are just so many amazing Sync flicks here to watch. Way's Blood, The Love Witch. Is that right?
Wise Blood. Yeah.
Wise Blood. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
There's also still a totally mystery musical interpretation of 2001: A Space Odyssey and Lucifer Rising, which is crazy because it's like 3 movies at once or something, or 2 with the soundtrack. It's really interesting stuff. I highly recommend if you come down the rabbit hole with us, looking into Kubrick and trying to just understand why.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir.
Is there any other one that you wanted to recommend to people that you're thinking about?
Oh, Bill just watched Bitter Honeymoon, which is it's Lana Del Rey's album Honeymoon with Bitter Moon, which is the one I was talking about. That I just didn't always record, and I keep getting confused because I'm like, did I talk about that with you or was I on always record? But no, Samantha Geimer liked the idea when I shared on Twitter that Lana Del Rey's album Honeymoon was an open letter to Emmanuel Signer. So that relates into Bitter Moon because you got Emmanuel Signer, his wife, starring in the movie, and there's like all these dynamics going on in her relationships, and it really like connects into kind of like a meta narrative. So it's almost like it's a thing about that Emmanuel Signer has never come to California. He's never come to America. So her husband, Roman Polanski, is like basically he cannot enter the country, but there's no reason why Emmanuel Signer couldn't. And so in Honeymoon, there's like all these examples where she seems to be speaking to kind of like calling her out, like, why are you just, being so loyal when you could come out and have a good time in California,
David,
where he used to be.
What did you sync Tools Lateralis with?
The Shape of Water.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to look it out.
Yeah, you'd like it. Check it out.
We're gonna figure out a way I can just type in a word, because the fact if I can't type in the word Prometheus and find it makes it a lot harder. But we're gonna start looking to figure out a way of indexing, because oh my god, if they're not like hundreds of amazing syncs here for everyone to watch. So guys,
there should be over 200.
Yeah,
200 for streaming and download, and I also recommend casting them. So like I've been casting them on a friend's smart TV, and I've been casting them off of Bill's projector, and
nice.
Pretty easy to do these days, apparently.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, also the Synchronous, you guys make sure you go to twitter.com/Synchronous, and you can find Eddie's amazing work. You can also find the Facebook group, which I think I'm back on Facebook now.
Yeah,
so I'll go check it out.
I'm back. Yay! Yeah. I'm 30-day. So 2 things. Okay, every time I get jailed, I need to tell everybody what not to do. First, do not make death threats on the CEO of Pfizer. Do not make death threats.
Right, don't do that, guys.
Is do not post the Ukrainian Azov battalion flag, because that's considered a Nazi flag.
And don't do that. Exactly. Those are good rules. Those are good rules to live by. Anyway, you guys make sure you also follow Twitter, because the Twitter is where I like to be. I find it to be very useful. And in the Twitter, he's posted I'll be like looking for Synchronous posts, and I'll be like, wow, there's a day ago 12 new amazing syncs. So if you're not following Synchronous, start doing it right now. It's definitely worth it. And follow the rest of us. At the top of the page, he actually posted the links in the video, so you can click on MK Ultrasound as well. And actually, the Deep Share is there as well.
Oh yeah. I didn't know that.
I haven't been here in like a month, so.
Andy, no, it's okay. We love you. So, all right, guys, and buy my stuff. Go to tartarinova.com. Make sure that you get into the Discord. Communicate with us elsewhere. Okay, I think that's pretty good. We love you very much. Anything else you wanted to say before Billy, do you want me to share anything?
Just hit up ayahuasca.com if you want.
And I just noticed Bernie's here. What? Hi, Bernie. What's up, buddy?
Yes. I just pop in. I'm doing a stream with Campbell in 2 hours if you want to join us. It's looking into lost Tartarian cities and rivers of Tartaria and Barbaria. So Africa and Eurasia. Looking at old maps and stuff. Let me know if you want to be a part of that.
Yeah, that sounds
Add your
cool.
channel.
I'll try to make it. I'll talk to you in a second after this. Let's make sure we do it. And guys, make sure to cryptoalchemist.com. Did you say Billy? Did you give me a link, Billy, and I talked over you? Sorry.
No, I just said hit up ayahuasca.com if you want to see some, you know.
Oh wait, Andreas,
I like
one
the
last thing.
sound of that.
You got to be clear. You got to be hold on. You got to be clear. It's ayahuasca, like iPhone. So it's the idea
That
that
was
like
something like-
that you could get components and put them together. So like
I
in
like
the Amazon, 2 different plants were combined for ayahuasca. And so the idea is like Amazon.com, you could take any 2 pieces of media and that you found in the Amazon and put them together. So that is a clever wordplay. Ayahuasca.com.
Triple wordplay. Definitely good.
Right.
Brilliant. Wait, sorry, Eddie, you were about to say something?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just remembered because Bernie was mentioning the Tartaria. The latest Variety, the Variety, the Hollywood magazine, Variety cover has the Tar Wars.
Oh, really?
With the Nightingale, the guy, what's his name? The Todd, the actor.
Oh,
from,
Nick Nightingale.
Nick Nightingale, yeah.
Todd Fields.
You should look at the cover. It's very bizarre. I think it might have something to do with Tartaria.
The Tartar Wars are coming. Soon we're all going to be branded as racist extremists for being Tartarian.
Tar Wars, Kate Blanchett, Tar. I don't know. Where do I go? Where do I have to go?
Click on the image. Yeah, there you go. Oh, Tar. Well, maybe don't put the parentheses because that narrow.
Maybe I have to go to. I might have to look on Google Images sometimes. Google.
Oh,
yeah, let me go to Google. Try that. Tar Wars. It's making me do that because it's expecting that. I don't see Tar Wars. Send me the link. Put it into the private chat.
Right there.
Right here?
Yeah.
Oh, Variety. Yeah.
Tar Wars.
Right.
Because the movie Tar. Right. Yeah, that movie Tar. Yeah. Have you heard about that movie Tar? Tar's supposed to be the best movie of the year, and I haven't seen it.
It was so good. I loved it. Yeah.
Okay.
I recommend
Does it
it.
have any kind of euphemism with regarding Tartaria?
No, it has resonance with Eyes Wide Shut is what it has. There's a whole thing going on. Yeah, it's great.
All right. That sounds
I
legit.
thought I'd bring it up.
All right, cool. Well, I love you guys. I'll see you next week and take care. Oh, by the way, tomorrow I probably won't be able to do Wednesday Ultra. I'm sorry. I'm flying randomly to California. Emergency.
Yeah,
but
safe
take care, guys. Thank you, guys.
Travels.
Peace.